6'7".
6'7".
Yeah.
Oh wait, he's 6'7".
That's crazy.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like a big geography guy.
It could be so fun and so yee, and then all of a sudden it can be like, man, this is just awful, and it's just the worst feeling in the world.
Welcome into Overtime, presented by Perfection One, episode 91 of the flagship podcast of Southern Ohio Sports Authority. I'm John Bruce, alongside Shayne Combs, which has been pretty much a weekly occurrence since early in the fall. So we every week we appreciate you tuning in. If this is the first time you've been with us, on today's episode we will talk a variety of topics across boys and girls basketball here from the Chillicothe Sports Card Studio. And if you are like, man, I don't care about the SOSA Basketball Classic, which we're going to talk about at length, I just want to hear about the girls' tournament draw. Well, here's the good news. In the description below, you can find timestamps for each topic that we're going to talk about. And really, when we talk about the SOSA Basketball Classic, we're going to go game by game. If you don't care about an early game, you just want to listen about a later game, you've got that option too. So there's a lot of different things in the timestamps. You can find exactly what you want, when you want. And I hope some people are clicking it because it takes a lot of time afterwards. So, but another interesting week of weather this week.
Yeah, it really was. And, to your point there, we've committed to talking about everything basketball, boys and girls, throughout all of our coverage area. And sometimes that does make the show lengthy. I know that I get great feedback about you putting the timestamps. Appreciate your effort on that. And it does allow us to try not to leave anything out. So as always, if we do leave something out, please let us know, because we take a lot of pride in covering it all around. But John, to your point, yes, the weather, the week before, I think we kind of knew it was coming. This past week, it was a little bit hit and miss, and it was almost good enough to go, not go. People making tough decisions. Again, I know people get frustrated with that, but I can tell you from the administrative side, man, there's a lot that goes into those decisions, and it is really hard. I know our classic that we're going to talk about was impacted a little bit by the weather and what schools could or could not do. But no, here we are. We're getting closer and closer to tournament time. It looks like the weather is going to trend in a better direction here this week. Not perfect, but certainly in a better direction. And hopefully that means a lot of basketball in terms of regular schedule and makeup games.
Yeah, it was a great Saturday down at Jackson High School. It was. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a minute or two. But as you said, the administration, they have so many different things they have to look at when it's, the safety of the students is the first. Obviously you want to get these extracurricular activities in, you want to get the games in, but you have to be able to safely get the students there and back. You also have to make sure the students can get home after the game too. So, or after school even, because I know we were in session on Friday and a lot of people were like, man, you got out early on Tuesday. Well, the weather was going to stop about 1. Well, that gave it to where the crews had 2 hours afterwards. Mm-hmm. My drive home was perfect. And I'm like, after watching it throughout the entire day, I'm like, this is going to be awful.
Schools that made the call to stay on Friday, I think they nailed that one. Again, some canceled on the forecast, which again, I don't blame them. Yeah. Other schools were feeling the pressure to kind of get there after missing so much. Look, they got caught in a tough storm, so that, again, a lot of time and effort went into how we going to handle it, and I think the schools that did wait it out till 3 certainly made the safest decision.
Yeah. Well, and then also, with our classic, we had some teams had to drop out because of snow level emergencies, and I mean that is beyond what the school can even decide. So it comes down to a lot of different factors, and ultimately, things worked out well for all involved, and ultimately. We do feel for Miami Trace a little bit because it's been a long time since they've been able to play, so they weren't able to play. We did see their coaches down there. They were down there scouting, and they had a really good attitude about everything. And that's why, they'll be around for a long time and have a lot of success.
Well, and too, on that note, oftentimes things are canceled because of certain things, and the time and effort it takes to cancel something and then to put it back on or to reschedule or whatever, man, there's a lot of moving parts. Hats off to the SOSA team. Hats off to Portsmouth for jumping in and really kind of. I think we're going to have great games no matter what. But I personally felt like the addition of Portsmouth last minute really kind of put the event over the top, just because it kept us at the 5 games, and then obviously we didn't lose anything in the matchup with Zane Trace Portsmouth, which we'll talk about. So a lot of credit to people. That's dynamic leadership where you think outside the box and you kind of recreate it on the fly, and as a result, you end up with a great event.
Yeah, and it was an outstanding event, and getting into it first, we want to thank Jackson. Jackson,
absolutely.
Stepped up for us. Like when we were talking about putting it together last year, there's a few different options, and Jackson was at the top of the list of and then they were Waylon Massey and his group over there did a great job of running everything. Had a lot of student workers who did an outstanding job throughout the day. We had some great sponsorship throughout the event as well. Obviously, Glockner, we always appreciate everything Glockner does for us, but they were one of the primary sponsors. Shawnee State was one of them. Ott, Norman, and company CPAs came in and helped us in a big way. And then Rowdy's Roadhouse down in Jackson provided food for the officials, and it smelled delicious. And based off what the officials said, it was a high quality meal as well. So we appreciate them. Obviously, Jackson making things run smoothly for us. Your boy's an idiot. We get there and we get there 2 hours early, thankfully, about 2 hours and 15 minutes before the first game, and we get asked if Kenneth Hay had picked up his tax forms from here down at the SOSA office, and I was gonna reach down and get them out of the bag, and I went, forgot the laptop, so got to jump in my car and drive from Jackson back to Chillicothe, and thankfully when I got back at 11:15, everything was already set up. Also, I forgot that they hadn't cleared off all the sidewalks here, so I'm jumping through snow to get into the office. And
we really need to check to see if there's any video of that.
I didn't fall, so there might be, but I didn't. I
mean, you were once a nice athlete, but in your older days,
I'm not now.
That would be fun to see you kind of navigating yourself through the.
Yeah, and actually, one of our earlier guests on the Haynesville Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show, Cassie McHenry, one of the PTs over at Haynesville Healthcare Center, she did the same thing. She parked on the street, and we were like, "Hey, man, we gotta talk to Dr. Haynes and tell him, hey, we got a whole place you can park on Sundays. Can't do it during the week, but she climbed over and." Yeah, but she's got the Berg athleticism going for her. Yeah, so, but yeah, it was a great event. We appreciate all the people that came in. We did have the one game where we had an empty block, and I'm sure the people, the businesses of Jackson, appreciated that because a lot of people got their hand stamped, went out and came back, and we were able to have 2 more games at night. We had 3 really good early games and 2 really interesting games at night. And then, man, if you haven't seen some of the highlights, the Joey Francis dunk was insane. It felt like he just kept going up on it. Then Noah Netter had a huge game, had 4 dunks in the game, just on top of everything else he did in that game for Chillicothe. Once again, we'll talk about those more here in a minute, but then CJ Crabtree had that huge dunk through contact late in the first half of it was third quarter of the Jackson game as well. So just overall, just a really fun event. Thankfully, the people of Jackson really helped us out, and we'll kind of see where we're going next year. We're planning on going again next year. I think we will be at a different location next year, but then after that, who knows? Because it's something that we would like to see go around to different locations, but if it rotates between 2 locations, then that's great too, because we've got a lot of outstanding places in our area that are ran by really good people that know how to do it, and that helps us. And then credit to Derek and Brock, because I thought they did a lot to go above and beyond this weekend as well, because they were on the phone all day on Friday trying to make sure something good could happen. And then, as you mentioned, Portsmouth, couldn't have had I mean, maybe we could have had 5 games once Fairland had to drop out, but Portsmouth was able to step in on Friday night. And kudos to Zane Trace too for stepping up to the challenge, because it's not like Portsmouth's a bad team. Both teams came in with, I think it was probably more of that typical second game of a back-to-back where you were preparing on Friday for a game and then you just had to adjust for Saturday. But both stepped in and gave us a really good third game as well.
Outstanding.
Yeah, so let's get into the games now. So the first game of the day was Adena and Wellston in a battle. Ended up being an 8-point win for Adena. Can you just talk about a little bit about that game and kind of what happened? Because I know we had outstanding performances on both sides.
Yeah, really, really enjoyed that game. And if you remember, I had said all week that I thought this was the game everybody was sleeping on. And I think I tried to think about all week long, why was that? And, maybe a year ago, both teams struggled record-wise. They found a little momentum at the end of last year, but if you think about it, their overall year didn't have a lot of winning. So they come back this year, and both teams have really turned the corner. Both teams are on their way to winning seasons. Both teams are in the top 3 of their respective conferences. Adena, the Side Valley Conference, Wellston, TVC, Ohio. And it really, I thought, had some interesting matchups in it. Adena has become one of the more versatile teams with 3 or 4 guys that can play a version of positionless basketball. Wellston, really, really good team. Mix of some senior leadership with the outstanding junior. Brick's kid's really, really good.
Yeah.
He had 25 yesterday, and I thought it was an easy 25. I don't even know that he shot the ball real, real well and just still got 25. I was real, real impressed with his game. But overall, it's just a nice back and forth. Teams kind of traded punches back and forth in the first half. You mentioned the incredible highlight play from Francis start to second quarter. We come back off break. Carson's asking me for my thoughts on the first quarter, and all of a sudden you see the 6-foot guard go backdoor over the top, and he hammers it 2 hands. It kind of caught both of us off guard there a little bit. But no, so it didn't lack highlight plays. It didn't lack some incredible one-on-one talent. And I think Wellston up 4 at the half, come back out second half, and Adena. I thought Adena really committed, John, they stopped settling. I thought in the first half, I wouldn't even call them terrible shots. I just thought they were quick, settled shots. And I thought in the second half, there was a real commitment to getting the ball to the rim. I remember a play where Preston got loose on a back screen. Metzger got loose on a little shuffle type cut. Garrison was outstanding down low. He really went to work, and he started to draw so much attention that he was able to score around the basket. And then, of course, Francis is one of those kids, as I said on the air. Coach Day's done a nice job coaching him, because you have to kind of turn him loose a little bit. Yeah. He's gonna give you maybe a forced shot. He might give you a turnover, but he's so dynamic that he's going to make big time plays. I'm not just talking about the dunk. I'm talking about he had 2 awesome passes to Harold on some diagonals late in that game when they started to space away. He just does a lot of different things, and I really like the versatility of Adena. Let me ask you this. This is something I've really been thinking about the last couple of weeks. I'm really high on Garrison. And look, Francis is outstanding. But to me, if I look from last year to this year, Garrison's versatility is what's allowed Adena to go to a whole new level. If you remember last year, how much pressure was put on Metzger handling the basketball and different things. Now, Metzger's turned into a really, really nice player. He can do a lot of different things. He hit some big shots yesterday. But he's a ball handler.
Yes.
Garrison's ability to come back has made them really hard to be pressured this year, because not very many teams have the types of matchups. If you think, there's only been 1 or 2 teams on their schedule that's really been able to take them out of what they want to do. And if you think about who those teams were, you're talking about some of the best defensive teams in our coverage area. So And I think his versatility has had a lot to do with it. I wanted to get your take on Garris.
Yeah, because it makes it harder for them to be guarded like in the full court because, well, then you throw a 4 in there. Well, more than likely, unless you're playing a zone pressure, it's going to be hard for a 4 to guard him coming up the court, or even a 5 because with his size. So I think with his ability to handle the ball, get them into their sets, it makes them more difficult to guard because also you're going to have to bring out, maybe if you have a rim protector, the rim protector's got to come out because he can shoot the ball a little bit as well. So I mean, there's a variety of things that a player of his size and versatility, as you mentioned, can do. And because of that, it makes them more dynamic on the offensive end.
Yeah, and then over on the Wellston side, it's my first chance to see Briggs in person. I'd watched him several, because remember, we were supposed to have them against RCCA. Been watching a lot of film on Wellston. I wanted to start with Briggs. This kid, just a junior, he's going to put up some big-time numbers before he's done. I was so impressed with how easy he scored. His patience down low, great footwork, score from the high post, good passer. Couldn't get the 3 ball to fall, but I've watched on film where he's certainly capable of doing that. And at his size, he can kind of get a shot. I thought Adena got him a little out of rhythm in the third quarter. He had one frustration foul, cost him 2 or 3 minutes of playing time. Adena took advantage, and I thought that's where Adena really kind of started to get control of it. But before we break down deeper into Wellston's roster, your thoughts on Briggs and that talent? He's good.
It's a smart game. Like the way he scores is just really intelligent. You can tell he understands the game. He understands his game to where he can get the shots that he wants and do it at a pretty efficient level. And like you said, he's typically a pretty good 3-point shooter, and he just shot wasn't on yesterday. But he scored 25 points without really shooting it well from the outside, and it's just because he can get this to the right spots. He uses his body well, as you mentioned, good footwork. It's just he's the type of kid that you can see why he would be a big time matchup problem and why he scored well over 1,000 points already as only a junior.
Well, and then what happens too in today's game, we talk about the physicality. He's a big kid. So a lot of times what happens is the big kids get hit even harder because the contact doesn't look as bad. So I think he plays through a lot of contact. I watched him on film, watched him yesterday. A lot of his finishes are and one type of opportunities. Just real impressed. So, we've talked about a little bit of the star power on both sides. On the Adena side, I mentioned Preston. I mentioned, Metzger. I thought Day played really well. They're starting to develop. Harold come in. They're starting to play really, really well. Over on the Wellston side, I think that's a big thing too. Obviously, Briggs was a good player last year, but the wins weren't there. I think if you talk to people like I did in between games yesterday from the Wellston side, they'll tell you that they're starting to just come together as a team and get a lot more from everybody. Real impressed with Braxton Ingalls. Just sophomore, I coached against him in baseball as a young kid.
Good baseball
very,
player.
very, very good baseball player. I was so impressed with Long. I think he only scored like 2 points. He was everywhere. Played really hard, diving on the floor, doing a lot of things. And then Kilgore on the offensive glass. Jackson was really good. Barnhill, even a senior, had come in, knocked down a 3. So I think Carson had asked me the difference between Wellston last year and this year and what's been allowing them to make this big jump. And I just talked about how I think it's just a year later. I mean, don't you see that sometimes in sports? We lose patience of where a big thing is when a team that is freshman, sophomore, junior is all of a sudden sophomore, junior, senior. Well, you're starting to see a little bit of the growth. And look, I still think this is a team that's a dangerous tournament team this year. And very, very capable next year of being really good.
Well, then they are also on the verge of, they've got a chance to win the CBC Ohio. I don't think anyone saw that possibility coming with 4 games left. Now, it's games against 4 teams that they've beaten, and 3 of those are at home also. So they've already beaten those teams on the road. Now, this Nelsonville team is a lot better the second half of the year.
Yes.
But it's still, they're going to have a chance if they take
care. Nelsonville hammered Vinton County pretty good last night off of Vinton County sweeping Megs on the season.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, it's a Nelsonville team that is not going to be a fun matchup at Nelsonville late in the season as well. So, but
So they got to run the table, and they need someone to get Megs. Is that correct?
no, Megs. Somebody's already got Megs twice. So if they would split.
That's right, because they beat yes. Okay.
Yeah, so they've gotten the help they need. Now they just have to take care of their own business. And I mean, still there's a possibility down the road that Megs could drop another one. But yeah, for Wellston, it is the kind of the time is now for them to have a chance to do something they haven't
Wellston
done.
played the rematch with Vinton County yet?
No, that's coming up. So
so they do have some tests in front of them still, but man, it's on the table.
But Megs does have Nelsonville as well in that last week. So, there's some different opportunities out there for the Golden Rockets to do some really good things. And right now they're sitting in the 8th seed in Division 5, which would get them a home game. So they still want to take care of some business because you'd rather play, if you're going to be playing a really physical Northwest team, you want to play them at home instead of at Northwest.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's that'll be decided here in the next few days as well. So
who's the 1 seed in that?
Chesapeake. So I think if you're playing any of those top 4 and really 5 teams or 6,
but again, as Wellston takes steps forward, getting that tournament win and just putting yourself in a position to play in that game is a huge step.
It would take you to the Convo.
Right.
So if you get a chance to go play at the Convo, and with how much work that team's done and kind of put together, that's a big positive. And if you can do it with winning a league title too, yeah.
Now on Adena's side, they're fighting for that 3rd place spot. They have their Westfall makeup game, but keep in mind Huntington has the challenge of playing Zane Trace.
Mm-hmm.
So very possible that they could still get 3rd place to themselves. No worse than 4th place, but certainly could be in that 3rd place mix with a win.
Yeah, they are.
So that's interesting. Where are they at in the 6th?
Right now, they're in 6th. And if you heard Coach McCormick on the Haynesville Healthcare Coaches College show, North Adams' schedule is crazy in the last 4 games.
I did hear that.
So there's a possibility there. Now they do play. Adena plays at Northwest. Coach Day was also on the Haynesville Healthcare Coaches College show. They play at Northwest and at Westfall before the tournament draws. So I mean, they have a couple of games that would help them. Both bigger division teams would help bring that win percentage up a little bit more as well. They are sitting at actually, I think there may be a game that isn't in there right now. They are 11-7 overall. I guess they have 2 wins against non-OHSAA teams. That's why.
Oh, okay.
But they have the possibility to maybe get even with North Adams or possibly a Huntington as well. So I mean, they got a chance to move up, but it looks like they are in a pretty good spot to at least get a home game with the possibility of moving on to the district level as well. So, both teams most likely going to finish over 500. It would be kind of crazy to not at this point. A year after winning only 4 games, and they put on a really good show at the SOSA Basketball Classic.
Yeah, no question. The last thing I would say is I've pulled it up here on my screen. I think the biggest compliment you give to Adena on where they've arrived now is there's some really, really good teams at the top of that bracket, but no team on that list could Adena not play with on a given night. I think Adena has kind of arrived at that level now, so I think that's a fair statement.
Yep, I would agree with that as well. So, I mean, for Adena and Wellston, both nice turnaround seasons, and we appreciate their participation in yesterday's event. Saturday's event. Now, let's move on to game 2 of the day, which was Western knocking off Southeastern in kind of a wild up and down game throughout. It was a game where Western got off to a 7-0 lead, eventually built that lead up to 12, and then before the half, Drake Whittington 3 for Southeastern cut the lead back down, and then they were able to draw even at 21, and then it was not all Western, but a lot of Western. After that, Western was able to build the lead up again. I think it got up to 9. Southeastern got back down to 2, but then Baden Taylor made a couple of really big plays for Western down the stretch, and Western was ultimately able to get a nice win over Southeastern in game 2 of the day.
Yeah, a couple things in my notes for this game was, a big theme of the day we say yesterday because we're recording
Yes.
on Sunday.
Yeah.
On Saturday was asking each coach how much basketball they've been able to have in the last 2 weeks. You know, how many times have you played? How many times have you practiced? And I think Southeastern and Western have struggled to get some of that consistency and some of that time. And I thought that showed up in the basketball in the first quarter. Man, if you've ever been around it, the rest versus rust talk, that's real in sports.
Yes.
I mean, your timing, your rhythm. And I thought that showed up on the offensive end. To both teams' credit, thought they played really hard, and the offense started to catch up slowly but surely, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, and it ended up turning into a really nice basketball game. Mm-hmm. The one thing I wanted to get your take on, I heard Coach Williams, who's obviously an outstanding basketball mind, has had a lot of different basketball experiences from Western on your show this morning before I had come in to record after church, and he was talking about how ideally you love to have 5 guys that could go out on any day and have their day. And that sounds great. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like, I also would, when offense is so hard to play, sometimes it's nice just to have a guy that can go get you one. Yeah. You know, like we talked about Briggs, just go get 35. We talked about, hey, run the backdoor play and throw it up to Francis.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or we're going to talk about some guys later in some of these games that have big first quarters. Do you see what I'm saying there? Like, I think sometimes with Southeastern and Western, they're not bad basketball teams. They have some pieces, and they both are still pushing double-digit wins on the year. But they don't have a guy that can just go get one. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it really becomes difficult to avoid some of those scoring droughts. Did you see that in the first quarter a little bit in terms of that jumped out at me? You were calling the game. I didn't know if you were seeing it the same way.
It just felt like there were teams that, as you said, don't have the big time scorer. Because sometimes if you need a basket, you just go to.
Because they both have like 5 or 6 guys that can score.
Yeah, and have done it at different times. But for Southeastern, it looked like they were just trying to find someone to put the ball in the basket.
Yeah.
And for Western, it was kind of a consistency thing. Now they had Foster Davis got a couple early, but then he picked up second foul pretty early, and so he had to sit because of how physical of a game he plays. And I do think that makes a big time difference for a team when you're struggling to score if you don't have it. So like a Wheelersburg that we'll talk about a little bit later, like they were struggling, and Braylon Rucker just went to the basket. Yeah. Like it was, they had that guy that could go get it. Maybe it's, and I do think early in that game, it did make a big difference.
Well, and to Southeastern's credit, they really stayed the course. You know, they continued to defend at a level that allowed Western not to get away from them. I think it was like 15-5 in the second quarter. Yeah. Easily could have been 28-5.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But to their credit, they didn't let the bad offense, force them to quit or to lose their focus on the defensive end. And as you said, before you know it, they creep back in it. They hit the big shot in the corner before the half. You go to the locker room down 1, you had to love it.
Yeah.
Come back out now, give credit to Western, because, again, it would have been easy for them to say, gosh, what do we got to do to get rid of these guys? We held them to 5 and we couldn't. But they stayed the course, made another run in the second half, and Southeastern wouldn't go away. But when it was winning time, I was impressed that Western made some winning plays.
Yeah, and it's a young Western team. So, I mean, really, Foster Davis is the senior, with a good bit of time. And I'm just going through, they only had 3 seniors on the roster overall. So not a whole lot of experience. Landon Owens played a good bit last year as a freshman, but really you had other guys that were able to step up. Baden Taylor, as I mentioned, he had a game high 18. He was outstanding in the game. He made a couple really big shots for them. As it was 21 all. Braden Jones splits a pair to make it 22-21, but then Taylor hits a 3 to give them a 4-point lead. After a Jan Bacher 3, he hits a driving layup. It just felt like when they needed something, Baden Taylor went and got it. And that's, and I think that's what Coach Williams likes about this team is they've got, maybe it wasn't Landon Owens' game to score yesterday, but it could be. And just so you give a lot of different guys confidence. Braden Jones was really good in that second half. He had all 10 points in the second half for them. and only a sophomore. Taylor only a junior, and then you've got Landon Owens only a sophomore, and then Josiah Satterfield, who didn't have a huge game offensively yesterday, had 10 rebounds. He's only a junior, so they've got a lot of pieces back, and I do think that there's a lot of positives ahead for this Western team.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. And then when I go over back to the Southeastern side, if you go into the tournament time, you're talking about some really good athleticism, some length with Burns and Cheadle and Strasbaugh and company. I mean, like, they can present a lot of challenges. They struggle to take care of the basketball. I still feel like when I watch them, they have trouble getting into what they want to run. I think ball pressure's really bothered them. But when they've been able to handle the ball, I've watched them go toe-to-toe with some pretty good basketball teams. So when you fast forward here a couple weeks into tournament play, you know, let's see, we had that up a second ago because aren't they in Adena's?
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah, the 12 is right around where they're at. You know, again, they're going to be an underdog, but, like, I can't imagine a Huntington, a North Adams, Adena, I can't imagine that just being a real, like, you know, welcome opponent in the first round because they're a team, as I said, a little bit of size, a little bit of athleticism. They get the perimeter shot to go down one night. They're gonna give someone a scare into the second half of a tournament game.
Yeah, they've got some kids that are experienced. They won 15 games a year ago.
Right.
I mean, and you know, looking at their current roster, I mean, Burns, Cheadle, Strasbaugh all played huge minutes on that team that won 15 games. So, I mean, you've got some experienced guys. Maybe they're lacking a little bit at like the natural point guard where like Elaine Williams last year for them was outstanding.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, that's the difference in last year's team to this year's team is just the pure point guard.
Yes, and it has made things a little tougher to start, but man, they've got some length.
They do.
I mean, they started yesterday 6'6", 6'3", 6'3", 6'4", and then 6 foot. I mean, that's some really good size in that Division 6. So I mean, it's, as you said, not a matchup that you're going to really be pumped to see if you're a team. And Coach Alley's won a lot of basketball games. I mean, he is the second winningest coach ever at Zane Trace. So I mean, anybody that wins over 100 basketball games probably could coach a little bit. So, you know, their schedule has not been the easiest. They start off 0-6 and then, you know, win a couple. Then they play at Fairfield Union, who's a really good team. You know, at North Adams, they've played some really tough teams.
But you mentioned the 0-6 start. That's the leadership of allowing them to get back to where they are. And you mentioned North Adams' schedule coming up. So let's just paint a picture where North Adams would drop a spot or two. I don't know that if you're an SVC team that you want a third matchup with Southeastern.
Right.
Remember, Adena beat them earlier this year on the Francis half-court shot. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where I just think Southeastern in the right matchup. Whenever I call a team dangerous come tournament time, it always comes down to matchup. You know what I mean? Like certain teams, you know, like on the girls' side, you know, you might be a dangerous team and then you might be in Portsmouth bracket.
Yeah.
Well, tough. You know what I mean? Like, but like, if you're a dangerous team and you have the ability and you get in a pretty good matchup, but now all of a sudden that can come into play, and I think that could be the case with Southeastern.
Yeah, they're a team that you're not going to really want to see. They could go up as many as 2 spots. I don't think they can go up more than that, and I don't really know if they can drop. But they're a team. If they're going to drop, it would be 1 spot at the most. So I mean, right now, it's probably in that North Adams, Adena, maybe Eastern Pike area.
Yeah.
You know, if things go well for them, but they're a team with that size, with some experienced players that have won. Braden Burns is a really tough matchup for anybody.
Yeah.
You know, that they're a team that you aren't going to be real thrilled to see coming into your gym.
And then over on the Western side, they're D7, currently in the 9 on what I'm looking at here. Kind of a log jam there in that 7 through really 12 area. If they settle into that 8-9, I think that would be a game that they would be really competitive in.
Yeah, and possibly they could flip that and get that to be a home game as well. So I mean, they're a team that is, you know, a well-coached group. They're not going to be someone that you really want to run into in the postseason because of that kind of positionless basketball, and they've played some tight games. They've lost some tight games as well. But ultimately, I think they're going to have a really good chance in a lot of matchups just because of how difficult they are to guard. Now, where they hadn't played a whole lot of varsity basketball coming into this year, that's where you have like a 4-game losing streak where you lose by 4, 3, 1, and then 7. So I mean, those are all winnable games that they just had. But then they go and beat Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame's a good team. And, I mean, they can win some of these games. It just kind of depends. So they've got Northwest this week, at East, South Gallia, all before the tournament draw. So I mean, if you can put a couple wins together, maybe you jump up to the 8 and get a home game.
Yeah, well, and we kind of talked about yesterday. We felt like we talked about on the way home. Felt like we had a lot of convo teams in the Classic yesterday, and I think I kind of stand behind that. I think that's going to be the case here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, speaking of tough last weeks, though, they've got at Wheelersburg, at Peebles, at Eastern Pike in their last week of the season. So that'll get you ready and for that Division 6. But you know, that's why you schedule those teams. Right. You schedule them because you want to get better and you want to have a chance down the stretch. So it was a fun second game as well. So I mean, you know, we had a pretty good start, 2 games and 2 pretty good games. But then we had a really interesting matchup. Once again, we appreciate everything Portsmouth did to get there, to be able to step in late, to be able to come up and play. And overall, this was a game where it just felt like Zane Trace, you know what Zane Trace has as far as the 2 scorers, but man, when that 3rd scorer stepped up with Bryce Johnson, that makes them a whole nother beast to play because, man, those 3 guys really stepped up in a big way for them.
No question about it. And you're right. It's kind of a late flip of the schedule, and it makes it all work. And I thought it really topped off the Classic, so to speak. And obviously St. Trace is really good, so it was a really, really good matchup. I enjoyed every game, but I would probably, if you made me pick, I'd probably say the Zane Trace Portsmouth game was probably my favorite of the day, just from an entertainment standpoint.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that happened in the game. That you had some runs. I mean, Grady Stewart was awesome in the first half. Then Gunnar McCullough kind of picked that up and ran with it in the second half. And then Bryce Johnson, as we said, double off the bench for Zane Trace. And then, man, that Portsmouth team's really fun to watch. Yeah. Connie Thomas, I thought, was really good yesterday. Logan Atkins, when Logan Atkins released the shot, like, you don't always hear that ting of going through. Man, he was like ripping the net. I don't know if you could hear it because of the headset, but like every time he was shooting, it was like, well, you're getting ready to hear that. Because he really shot the ball well. Daquan Woods is a big time player for them as well.
Man, he can defend. I think Carson had given the stat on his steals coming in the game, and if you just watch him on the defensive end, he's everywhere in the dribble gap. I was almost saying late in the game, like Zane Trace's versatility. How would you use it against pressure? Well, I would take whoever Woods is guarding and get as far away from the basketball as you possibly could. He was poking balls away from behind on the dribble gap. And he was doing it without fouling.
Yeah.
He's just really, really quick with the hands, and he struggled offensively a little bit in the third quarter. But as a result, some of the other teams got going. I thought Zane Trace made a really, really good call to go to the zone, and I think that's such good coaching because I think you'd agree with me that Zane Trace probably wants to be more of a full court pressure, back into some man, pressure the ball, do some different things. But I think they realized in the first quarter, early in the game, that Portsmouth guards were just living in the paint. They were living downhill, and when they went to the zone and they even stretched it out a little bit, which took the three-point line and expanded it a little bit, I just thought it really ended up taking them out of their rhythm a little bit, and they ended up just staying with it. And that's a really, really talented Portsmouth team that likes to get up and down and go. And you look up there late in the third quarter, and they're stuck on 35 points. That's a credit to Zane Trace and the way they guarded.
Yeah, I thought that adjustment was really well done, and it also gave them a chance to play both Williams and Johnson at the same time.
Yeah.
As
good point.
A couple of those a little more inexperienced varsity basketball players. Right. But I thought Roman Berry I thought he had a much improved game as well. I thought Lance Stevens gave him some really good time. Hopefully he's doing okay.
Yeah.
But then you had like a Noah Kaiser coming off the bench, Jameson Hill, that gives them some depth. Where this St. Trace team, I don't know if we knew what their depth was going to be coming into the year. Well, it's pretty good now.
Funny you said that. I mentioned it on the air that you weren't sure if it was going to be about 6. Now you feel like, hey, it could be 9 if they needed it to be. That doesn't mean 9 are going to play equal time. It just means it can be 9 if needed. You're exactly right. Stewart was so good, so aggressive early. But as the game went on, Portsmouth, at one point in the first half, I thought Portsmouth had the game a little bit chaotic the way they kind of like to play it. Coming out of a timeout, I was real impressed with, Barry, impressed with Stevens, their ability to handle the ball and get into some sets that they were trying to get into, and just try to organize their team a little bit in chaos and you get the game back under control. And as it got into the second half, you're right. Obviously, Stewart was probably a focus in the Portsmouth locker room at halftime. I think he had 16 at the half. And then McCullough kind of picked it up and went. As you said, Johnson had the big third quarter, was on the offensive glass there a little bit. And, man, that's a good win for Zane Trace. I was really impressed with Portsmouth. Obviously, I didn't have a chance to prepare for Portsmouth the way I normally would in calling a game. But I also thought that was a unique coaching thing, is because you said you prepare all along like you're going to play a Friday night league game, and then you don't play Huntington if you're Zane Trace, and then you think you're going to play Memphis on Saturday, and then all of a sudden you find out basically that morning, was it, or was it the night before?
It was the night before. It was about 6.
Yeah. So you basically find out like, okay, here's our new opponent. Now it obviously helps to be able to come in and walk through it on a non-school day or whatnot, but no. Hats off to both teams for making that happen. Because, like I said, the Classic was an awesome event, but it would have certainly been missing something without that game.
Yeah, I would agree completely. It added a lot to it, and that's what ultimately made it the way it was. I was really impressed with what Portsmouth was able to do, just to fill that in. I thought they competed at a high level, and maybe didn't shoot the ball the way they would hope for. I think St. Trace has a lot to do with that, but I can see that Portsmouth team, I can see why they beat in Ironton.
Absolutely.
We will actually see them on Friday this week when Portsmouth hosts Chesapeake. That'll be one of our streaming games this week. So have fun.
That game could have a little bit of tempo too.
Yeah, a lot of tempo. Should be a really fun matchup. Overall, we appreciate everything that Portsmouth's been able to do for us there, and it's they're not the only good Portsmouth basketball team, because the girls
the girls aren't bad.
Yeah, girls can play a little bit. So that was our third game of the day. Then we had a little bit of a break. We had obviously you had a little downtime because Fairland wasn't able to come up. They were on a level 2. They made the call early to where we did only had the 5 games instead of the 6. But I mean, really, to me, it didn't drop it down any. I know we got to see some, we got to see the Miami Trace parents or coaches and their staff as well. They drove down, and just overall, I was glad to see a lot of the people that did leave did come back for those late games, because the late games were really fun as well. Yeah. So maybe not as competitive as the previous games, but man, it was that Chillicothe performance in that fourth game was really, really impressive. Wheelersburg, as Coach Prater said on the Haynes-Stowe Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show on Sunday, they didn't box out very well. They did. There's a couple different things that they didn't do as well as they would hope for. And if you don't do, a team like Chillicothe is going to beat you by 15, which is what happened in that game. Noah Netter was outstanding all game long for Chillicothe, and really it felt like I was happy to see Chillicothe go even further down on their bench. Eshawn Brown got some time, but man, they're 6 that play all the time. Have fun with that.
Well, think about like when Kayvon Pleasant is inserted into the starting lineup, and obviously Carter Williams is a great defender as well.
Yeah.
But when Kayvon Pleasant starts, and he's playing with Netter and Hammond and Cox and Stone King, you're talking about a huge basketball team. And then, but it's a team that even with that size and length, extremely athletic. And I think we talk in cliches and coaching all the time, John. But like what happens is you always talk about you play those types of teams to better yourself, to get you ready, and to expose. I heard Hoopsy talking on the show, asking the kind of question he was kind of, this is basically what he was saying was, you don't know until you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, like you play those games and it exposes you. A lot of times with Wheelersburg's athleticism throughout the SOC or throughout their schedule, they're playing good teams, but rarely are they out there on the court and they're overwhelmed athletically. I think we can agree on that, right?
Right.
This was one of those cases where they were a little bit overwhelmed athletically and size-wise. So when you don't box out in a game like that, as Coach was saying, it shows up even greater. You know what I mean? Like you miss a box out on a typical Friday night in the SOC, well, you still might be athletic enough just to go get a lot of the rebounds. You don't box out against that Chillicothe team, and they're going to shoot till they make.
Yeah.
So that is the first thing that jumped out at me. I wanted to say something about Chillicothe because I know you'll talk about Noah Netter, who was awesome on both ends, and then I'll comment on him as well. But this is where I'm at on Chillicothe. This is the team I know really well because of how closely I followed him last year. Coming into the year, there was no doubt this was going to be a really good team, but they're going to have to figure out the point guard position. And we talked about how Stone King and Cox are not probably prototypical ones. They're more shooting guards. Were they going to be able to accept the challenge of the ball handling? And Stone King has stepped to the front, and he has become a huge reason for the success of this team. I was so impressed with him yesterday with his ball handling, with his patience, with the way he was pointing guys in the right spot, the way he was delivering the ball on time, on target. And then he was still able to get his perimeter shooting and some drives and some different things. But he's a kid that can really score it. But he's come off of that just a little bit from what I've seen of late. And he's really, really provided this team an outstanding floor general. I wanted to get your thoughts on that because I thought he was really good the other day.
Well, he seems like he's grown from the beginning of the year to now as a point guard. And you can just tell he's understanding more of all that. And the fact that kind of pushes him down on like the scoring options, man, that makes that team very dynamic because he can flat out score the basketball. But as he's further down the scoring options, that actually probably makes his scoring a little easier because a couple different times he's able to get his feet set. When he gets his feet set, he's one of the better shooters in the area. And by being unselfish and finding kind of where he's needed on that team, that takes their ceiling so much higher. Like their floor is already really high, but now the ceiling goes even higher. And I think really if you see them on your side of the bracket, you're not going to be real pumped about it because they're all long, they all can guard, and now you've got a really good point guard as well, where it was like you don't have someone like cosplaying as a point guard. Now you got a point guard. And that just makes them a really dangerous team.
It does. And then because of his ability to shoot it, I think he still spaces the floor. He's a unique double threat of, okay, once he starts the offense, he allows Cox to play more one-on-one. He allows like Netter, who was terrific yesterday, down low to go to work. Hammond has really found his shooting touch. I know he struggled a little bit early yesterday, but man, he's put up some huge numbers lately. But because of Stone King's ability to shoot it, I think he keeps the floor spaced and allows more guys to play one-on-one, which, more times than not, they're going to win their matchups. But let's talk about Netter. I know he's the MVP, and rightfully so on that side. And again, the dunks and the different things are the highlights. I thought defensively he just dominated the game from the word go.
Well, like, we're not sure on how many blocks he had, but I think you said it before. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
The first 2 blocks he had, that could have been it.
He announces himself, hey, I'm down here the rest of the day. Don't just remember that when you come in here.
Yeah, because, man, that's a Wheelersburg team that can really beat you off the dribble, but they don't have a ton of size. So they're beating guys off the dribble. They get to the basket, and then all of a sudden Netter's, they weren't deflections. They were big-time blocks.
Yeah.
And by doing so, there was one possession where he got 2 blocks on one play where he gets a block and then the offensive rebound, kid pump fakes about 4 times. He blocks, gets to another one, gets another offensive rebound, and that player didn't look at the rim. Like it was like, oh, I gotta get rid of this thing because like I'm going to get blocked if not. And that's why we say, yeah, he may have had 4, 5, 6 blocks on the game, but it didn't matter because he impacted another 5 or 6 just based off of his presence. And yeah, his offensive game was much improved yesterday. That defensive game is what he does. So anything you get offensively, that's just icing on the cake.
No, I agree. And what happens too is Wheelersburg didn't make shots. I heard Coach talking about that on the call-in show. But when someone controls the paint the way Netter did, we always hear it. He blocks this many shots, he's going to change at least that many more. But what happens is even in changing shots around, their length overall, when you have a Kayvon Pleasant closing out or when you have Cox closing out, at the three-point line, you rush it just a little bit more. Even when you're open, you think you're where they at, where they come, and everything's just rushed a little bit more. And I thought it took Wheelersburg 2.5 quarters just to kind of feel the pace of the game. They finally adjusted because they're a really good basketball team, and they'll grow from it. They got it all the way back to 11 or 12. It's just you can't build that type of deficit against that team. If they'd have been able to stay in it at 13, 14, 15, and then go on that type of run, then maybe they'd have had a chance. But you're just not going to come from, 25 down?
25,
and they got it back to 12. Again, a lot of credit to Wheelersburg. Doesn't surprise you because those kids are winners and they're not going to stop competing. But I thought that's what happened in terms of the speed of the game. And I think that can go a long way in helping Wheelersburg. I know they're talking about the rebounding part of it. I think offensively it can really help them into the tournament as well. Just trying to find their rhythm and not get sped up and being able to control the heart rate there to make sure they're putting the good stroke on the three ball, because once they got it going, they can shoot it.
Well, and then the other thing for Wheelersburg, and we talked to Coach Prater about it on the Coach Collins show, they've played the toughest schedule outside.
They have.
So they've played such a tough schedule, but they hadn't really been sped up like that. But then, as you said, they adjusted pretty well. Just get down 25, you've got to make every shot. So when they have it down 12, they get a pretty decent look to cut it to 10.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen. And then Chillicothe was able to just say, okay, you're not playing your zone anymore. We're going to hold it. Then you got to go out and guard, and that's when Netter started to really put on a show, was because his guards were beating guys off the dribble and putting him in spots where he could hammer it down. Yeah. But what impressed me so much about Wheelersburg was, they don't play a ton of guys. They have a lot of seniors. I really liked what Braylon Rucker was able to do in the game. It felt like he wasn't, he got blocked a couple of times, but then he started to use the rim as an extra protection. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like he played at such a high level that kept them competitive until his teammates started to kind of figure things out. I thought Landon McGraw gave some really good minutes. Hunter Bivens knocked down some shots in the second half. He's got to look for a shot a little bit more early because he only took the one shot before the second half, ended with 11 points. Xavier Miller, man, he brought some toughness early.
I was impressed with his athleticism.
And then for like a Jack Dorr, Greer Woodward, those guys, Brew Hansel, those guys just, freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah.
And they're going to adjust to it. They're going to adjust to it. They'll be fine. But I really it made me, that late third, early fourth made me feel a lot better about Wheelersburg.
I agree.
Yeah, because it just felt like, no, they did not play very well.
Yeah.
But they competed. And that's the biggest thing is hey, if you compete at a high level, good things are going to happen. You're going to make,
especially when you're not talented.
Yeah, you're going to make shots. You're not going to play a team that their shortest player is taller than your tallest player, and he's playing point guard. You're not going to play a whole lot of those teams. So you make those adjustments. You get it on film. You're going to be a lot better from having that. But that's a game where if you get down 25. It could easily get to 35. But instead it goes from 25 to 15. And that might be like, oh, that's a moral victory, whatever. Well, it kind of is.
Yeah.
But it shows to me that their ceiling is a little bit higher because they're going to battle. No lead's too big. We've seen on games we've streamed all year. Teams have been down, like Peoples got down 16 with 4 minutes left. Took the lead. Like no lead is safe in the way that current high school basketball is, where teams can really shoot it. Teams aren't great at running the clock or making great decisions, taking the right shots. So showing that you're not going to quit, I think says a lot about that team.
Oh, I don't think there's any question. Real quick before you move on, Miller was one of those kids. I caught myself looking down at my roster 3 times to check his height again, because he would go make a couple plays. I'd be like, is he taller than I thought he was? Yeah. Man, I was real impressed with his athleticism.
Yeah, he just really competed at a high level. I was, as you said, really impressed with him. And the Miller name is typically pretty good at Wheelersburg, and I think he's going to carry that on. He was a really good football player for him as well. So, and our nightcap of the night was the home Jackson Ironman with a nice win over a really good Valley team as well, and that was a big time seniors versus juniors game in that, where you had the really experienced Jackson kids. You know, they took some lumps as sophomores and started to really turn it on last year. Man, it reminds me so much of that Valley team. Like that Valley team next year, I think, is going to be almost the exact same team that Jackson is now. But man, Jax Carroll was really good, and then CJ Crabtree, you know, for how outstanding the Joey Francis dunk was, the CJ Crabtree one might have been even better.
Well, in traffic on the break, certainly, and the fact that they had the home crowd, there's even a different level of just energy in the gym by the time they were basically playing the home game. And that's what the tough draw for Valley. We talked about that on the air all day long. You're talking about settling into different type of environment, neutral site game. Well, then you get to the nightcap, and now you got a home game, right? So now, and as I've talked many times on here about how difficult it is to go play at Jackson, especially when you get behind. And I thought that's why the first quarter was so important. 14-5 start. Carroll had the hot hand early on. Valley was only able to really get in transition the one time they got fouled, went to the free throw line, made one. But 14-5, if you remember, Valley won the second quarter, I think, by a point. They're down 8 at halftime, but it's just you're already uphill. That's going to the dentist I talked about, playing from behind down there against them. They're tough to turn over. You felt like if Valley could ever get out in space and play a little bit, they had some ability to attack and do some things. But you just don't get very many opportunities to do that against Jackson, because they don't turn it over, and then they're awfully competitive on the glass. They're a lot bigger than you think they are. A lot of times you see them play kind of the 5 positionless basketball type thing, but all of a sudden with a Woodard, a Jenkins, Woodford plays way bigger than he is. Carson had given a stat. I hope I have this right. I don't have it in front of me. He scored double figures every game this year.
I believe so.
That's unbelievable. And again, that's just like that. It's that consistency. It's like, okay, well, what do we know for sure we go to a big game? Well, we know our best player is going to score 10. You know what I mean? Like, and it's one of those where that's not the case on every team. So, just
especially
so complete.
Especially one as deep as them.
Yeah, just so complete. I mean, we had them at Waverly, and in a game where points were hard to come by. Carroll didn't shoot it as well. So when Carroll had come out at home, he had to sit on that for a week or so. And he sees the first one go in, and it was going to be a night, and he certainly had a good night.
Well, and then my favorite thing about like a Jax Carroll is like how big everyone else is. He's just not. And that man, he's smooth. He's very skilled. He reads the game really well, and just makes the right decision 95% of the time, if not higher. So I mean, he's the basketball, like him and Steven Jenkins. They both were really good yesterday, and Jenkins passed the ball so well. When they moved the ball like they did yesterday, it's as you said, the dentist's office. It makes it really hard to come back on.
Coach Williams of Western talked about kids as they get older, they understand their spots, and I thought that was an interesting way of saying it, because there's 3 or 4 different ways to say what he's saying. But if you apply what he's saying to Jackson, the experience shows up. you get really good shot selection when kids understand how to get to their spots and what's their best shot. You know, and a lot of those Jackson kids do that. Carroll understands his ability to shoot the three or get it to the rim. Simon's really, really good in that mid-range game, and he's able to get to that spot. The size of Jenkins and Woodard can shoot that three, and then obviously Wolford's kind of the Swiss Army knife. He can kind of do a little bit of everything, and you know, they bring Connor off the bench. They bring Crabtree, so you get some athleticism. I thought Connor made some nice penetration and kicks. Yeah, they're just going to be really good. Obviously, this Division III bracket I just pulled up here, you know, that's not going to be easy at all. But again, I've said it all year long. I know Jackson kind of came up a little short last year in terms of what they wanted to do, and you know they've got to be extremely hungry for the tournament opportunity, which I think just makes them so dangerous to play against, because by the time they get into what would be like the second round, I'm not even sure what you call that anymore because we don't have sectionals, but like they're just going to win or die trying. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So like at the end of their careers here, they're going to be so locked in. As the way it sits here, you could have another run in with Chillicothe. Boy, would that be fun.
Well, that one would be at the Convo as well. So that would be, you know, on that neutral floor, which I don't know if you want to play either of them at the Convo, because one is going to be long and super everywhere, and then the other one is like, well, they've got a lot more floor to make you guard. So I mean, that would be a sign me up for game 3 of that, because the winner would move on to face a team from the East in the district finals. Now they obviously either one has to beat someone pretty decent at least to get there.
And I know I harped on this last night on the air, but it was such the key point that needed to be told. The 14-5 first quarter is huge because Valley settled in and played so well in the second quarter, but you're already behind. Yeah. And when you're down 7 to Jackson, you feel like you're down 20. Mm-hmm. If you can go and play out in front of them the way Chillicothe did earlier in the year, and you play, now all of a sudden, if Jackson wants to play a little slower and different thing, well, that's okay. They're helping you shorten the game as good as they are. But that only works if you're ahead. So that first quarter was really, really important. And the 14-5 deficit just had Valley chasing uphill all night.
Yeah, it makes things even more difficult when you're already playing a really good team when you're down throughout. So, you know, we'll talk a little bit more about Valley and, well, Jackson here in just a couple minutes, but we do have a couple different things to hit on first. Something we've been talking about on here, we didn't really talk about yet, is the SOSA dugout. So, you know, make sure if you're a baseball, softball person, they're starting to do some clinics coming up. Make sure you check those out. Follow the dugout on Facebook. You'll see when those clinics are coming up. I know the Coach Brian Smith clinic for the Huntington softball coach, that one's completely full. I believe the pitching clinic with Coach Morgan Gino York from Zane Trace, I think that is completely full. They're working on a couple different times, as far as a couple more softball coaches coming up, maybe from the South, which would be a huge benefit for people around here. And then I know some baseball stuff is coming up as well. So check out that. That's going to be sosaohio.com/the dugout to get your times, sign up for your times. They're going pretty quickly. Usually there's like 1 or 2 a night that does happen to be open, but check out the schedule. You'll be able to see when you'll be able to come in, maybe get your team in, or if you just want to do individual workout, there's a lot of different instructors in here as well that are working with some individuals as well. So check that out. As we also mentioned, SOSA the Dugout on Facebook. That's where you're going to see a lot of up-to-date stuff. Something goes out at least once a day on that.
Yeah, it's getting closer and closer now. And what's been exciting is some of the coaches of all ages that have brought their team in. Yeah. We have noticed slowly but surely some of those individuals coming back on their own, which as a coach, I know you don't hate that. Your kids coming out on their own, getting even more work in.
Yep. So always good to get some swings in, and the hit track system is really cool as well. So look out for more there. But let's jump down to, you know, we've already been talking boys basketball throughout. Let's get into our standout performances, which, based off the weather, pretty much is only one at this point. But man, it's a team. We talked about them a little bit within the last couple of weeks because they hit a half quarter in overtime to win a game. Waterford has been unbelievable as of late. They started off 2-8 on the season. They are now 10-9. Getting closer to the postseason, and it feels like every time I see anything about them, someone else is stepping up in a big way. So Reese Lang had 7 triples and 34 points in a win on Monday against Fort Fry. That's a Fort Fry program that's always good. Then they win on Friday, and then Weston Fairchild, 6'2" senior, 23 points, 18 rebounds in a win over Athens on Saturday. So I mean, it feels like they've got a variety of kids that are really stepping up in a big way and figured out something, because when you're 2-8, flipping to 10-9, pretty good turnaround.
Oh, no question. And all of a sudden you look down here at the screen. Remember, we talked a lot about this particular bracket earlier because we were highlighting Adena and Southeastern and Valley and some of the teams we played. By the way, that Valley team's number 2 seed. But, all of a sudden, Waterford's moved themselves into the top 8. They continue to climb. And look, teams that start to find it the second half of the year, you're playing. I know the bracket tells you they're an 8 seed, but if you look at it over the last month or two, they're more of a top 4 seed.
Yeah.
And that's when you're not thrilled to death to be playing a team that's hot second half season.
Yeah, and then that's going to be at the point of the season where, they're going to get a first round matchup, probably at home. And after you play at home, then you go and you're going to play a top seed. And that's one of those, as you said, a top seed probably isn't going to be real excited to see them. I don't know if they can get up to the 7. I think they're probably in that 8 spot, which would put them right now against Sims Valley. Sims Valley seems to be pretty much locked into that 9. But then you get Peebles, who is outstanding. We've seen them. They're an outstanding team, but I'm sure Peebles is probably like, man, we thought we were gonna have a little easier one in that. Either way, Waterford or Sims Valley, as the 1 seed, you don't get an easy one at all. So, really impressed with what Waterford's been able to do, because I mean, when you get that start, and honestly, just not very good to start. But when you look at their schedule, you had Philo, Southern. You lose you beat Trimble in overtime, but then you play the defending state champions in Monroe Central. Then you play at Ironton. That's not an easy start. They did lose at Alexander, which Alexander has shown at times to be pretty competitive. They're obviously very even with Fed Hawk. They lose by 4 to Fed Hawk when they beat them in overtime. It's a really tough schedule, but then they've started to really find their footing. River Valley beat them, and then they beat them by 35 when they play them a second time. Wow. I mean, they're a team that you just never know. Like, you didn't really know early what you're going to get, but it seems like they've really started to figure it out. And their only loss in their last 9 games is Southern. I mean, Southern is outstanding team. Really so, good. I mean, they've taken care of us now this week. You got a tough one at Nelsonville, then you're at Belpre, and then you finish with Warren. But, I mean, really, you're feeling pretty good right now if you're Waterford.
Well, and you just continue. We've said it all day. It's been kind of a theme of the show. When you're starting to play that well, you're not afraid to play those games because you win, you keep it moving. But if you lose, your team's still at a confidence rate where it's not going to kill the confidence. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we believe be battle tested. Well, it's great if you're battle tested and you're 2-20 and your kids have no confidence. But if you're winning and you're playing well and you're doing some different things every now and then, it's nice to have those games at the end of the year because it really exposes you if there's something you need to really get to work on.
Yeah, completely agree with that. So let's jump down because, I mean, really, we got a couple of we had one we had to take off because it was like, it's an achievement that was pretty much a guarantee to happen if they played, didn't play. So, I mean, just one of those things. You just kind of never know on that. So we're going to go really quick through the RPI because that'll come out next week. It'll be on our show next week. We'll talk about the brackets. Division 3 right now, Chillicothe did jump into the 2 spot. Marietta's still sitting at the 4. Sheridan at 11-6. Marietta Sheridan could be a really fun matchup to even get to the district semifinals. As we mentioned, Chillicothe would have to match up with a Hillsborough team that played them pretty tight before. Miami Trace is just playing at a high level, but they haven't played for a long time. So keep an eye out on the Division 3 there. Let's jump to Division 4.
Yeah, those top 4 teams are unreal.
Yeah. Division 4, man, Circleville really made a statement on Saturday night with a big-time win over Fairfield Union at Fairfield Union to really take control of the MSL Buckeye. They are in the 1 spot. Looks like Uniota will probably be in the 2. And then after that, it's a nice little mix with Washington, Fairfield Union, and Waverly in that 3 through 5. Man, if we get a Fairfield Union Waverly matchup at the Convo in the district semifinals, that could be a really fun one. But then you have Meg's, Guy Academy, Logan Elm, Benton County's shown the ability to beat some teams this year as well. So it's a pretty wide open, but right now Circleville seemingly has the one kind of in their stranglehold. Now Uniota and Circleville play on Friday. That could decide the one if things go a certain way, but more than likely it's going to be Circleville the 1, Uniota probably the 2.
Yeah, Circleville really, really explosive on the offensive end. We talked about their outstanding point guard, I think it was last week's show, Untitled, and what he can do.
How's that for a Friday night point guard matchup with Nungester and Fitch?
Outstanding.
Yeah.
You're right. And look, Uniota's a team that can really, really guard. They've struggled offensively at times. I watch other teams play, and it makes me maybe appreciate even more how Uniota guards. Like when I watch the Wheelersburg Chillicothe game yesterday, or I watch some of these other matchups, it probably makes me appreciate Uniota defensively even more. But the one challenge Uniota will have in this bracket, Circleville, Washington Courthouse, Fairfield Union, Waverly, Meggs, you're talking about teams that, in my opinion, probably find easy points more often. And that could be a big, big challenge for them.
Yep, and that's would be one of the impactful things because they're offensively not great, but that defensive side, they do a really good job. They do have some explosive pieces as well, like a Jack Welch can really get going. Isaac Coy's been really good throughout the year. But yeah, it's a team that if they can figure it out offensively, is going to be one of the better teams in the area.
And the team that's really quiet, and I think it's because their Miami Trace win was kind of in a non-league format, but is Washington. I think they're dangerous. I mean, this is a team that's played a lot of varsity basketball. They're obviously their ceiling's obviously good enough. I mean, because we've watched that against probably the team that you and I think is as good as anybody in the area. So. They're kind of, what's the word, lurking.
Yes. Well, you got Haithcock, who's outstanding, long, can shoot it, can do a lot of different things, and then they're very senior heavy as well. So they've got some really nice pieces as they just continue to kind of hang around and, as you said, kind of lurking there. Now let's jump to Division 5, which is just loaded. I mean, really, if you go down the line, it's pretty solid teams throughout. I mean, really. If you go down to even like Minford at 15, they've got some pieces that can really fill it up. So, but right now Chesapeake's sitting at the 1. Them and Ironton, they won't match up until the 17th, which is going to be when the OVC is decided there between those two. That one's going to be at Chesapeake. That one should be a instant classic on that. Ironton is the only team to beat Chesapeake on the season. Wheelersburg sitting in the 3. Wheelersburg and Eastern Brown are going to be really tight for that 3 spot. And I think if you're Zane Trace, I don't know if you really care at this point because it seems like you're starting to figure out some stuff. They look like they're going to be in the 5. And then after that, Portsmouth, Fairland, Wellston, and I'll even throw Northwest in there, are all pretty close on the 6 through 9. And then after that, South Point, who's shown the ability to beat some teams, even if they're fairly inconsistent throughout the year as well. But then you got Piketon, Nelsonville, Lynchburg after that. I mean, I think Piketon and South Point could flip, but then Nelsonville and Lynchburg pretty close to each other. Lynchburg has a really favorable schedule to finish the regular season, they could come in with a ton of confidence into the tournament.
I guess the team, because those top five, even really six, like you said, Portsmouth and Fairland, they're 6-7, Wellston 8. So the top part of that's really, really good. But man, the team that jumped out at me, Nelsonville down there in the 12. You talk about dangerous. Like, I know we talked a little bit about them early on, and we got some feedback from people telling us they had some injuries and different things. They're obviously starting to figure something out there. Man, that's a team. That's a team that could be crazy dangerous if they just all of a sudden go in with nothing to lose and is a double-digit seed.
Yeah, they're 11-8 right now. Their strength of schedule's bad, like it's just bad. But they've got 3 kids that average double figures. All will be coming back next year. Then you have Thompson, averages 9. I believe he's back now. Let me double check a couple of things on that. It looks like he played January 24th against Logan, which was
well, like Nelsonville in the 12, Zane Trace would be in that 5. And again, you look in that bracket, you have like an Eastern, and obviously Chesapeake there at the 1. That's man, we're going to see some unbelievable district level matchups in D5.
Well, just going to Nelsonville again, they have 6 players that average between 8.5 points and 13.1 points a game. So that's kind of what Coach Williams said. You want to have it to where anyone can do it at any time. Well, that makes things a lot more difficult when it comes to just guarding them overall. So and that's a Nelsonville team last year. They went on the road to Zane Trace last year in the tournament. I think we kind of talked about it a little bit, me and Dewey did, where they were going to come to the tournament. They were going to be a tough matchup. And that was a game they ended up losing. They ended up losing by 20 in that game, but they were up like 10 early. And it just felt like they were a team that you didn't really want to see. And I feel like it's very similar this year.
I think so. Yeah. I'll be interested to see where they end up in the next week.
But yeah, it's a really tough matchup anywhere in that Division 5, and I think that the 8 teams that get on, move on to the district play down the convo are going to put on a show, no matter what the matchup is going to be. Similar to what happened a couple years ago when Northwest really kind of came in. I think it was the 5, and just absolutely put on a show when they were down there at the convo. I could see something similar happening this year. So let's move to Division 6. Right now at the top, Peebles is going to be the one. They're now 15-2. They had a really good win over Fayetteville this week. Then Lucasville Valley is going to be the 2. They're at 10-5 right now. And then after that, kind of a log jam. It looks like West has a little bit of an advantage for the 3 seed, but then you've got Huntington. North Adams can win a couple of those games in those next 4 that they've got coming up. And then you got Adena, and then Eastern Pike also kind of hangs around in there as well. But then, Waterford probably is in the 8. Probably has earned themselves a home tournament game, and then after that, you've got like a Sims Valley, Belpre, Rock Hill, Southeastern.
Yeah, when I look, we talked a lot about this one earlier. I still think up there the team that's really dangerous is that Valley team. We've had them now several times, but you got to understand that we've watched them play their last 2 times out against Chesapeake and Jackson. Chesapeake and Jackson, they're not in this Division 6 bracket when I look up and down here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like all of a sudden you see this Valley team. We use the term battle tested. That SOC is really, really good. I guess you could say the same thing for West in that 3-hole. But those 2 SOC schools jump off the page at me. They're in that 2-3 spot.
Yeah, it's just it's going to make things really interesting there. It's a pretty, I think that's pretty wide open, kind of similar to what it was last year. But the top teams last year did make, kind of made it pretty obvious that they're the top 2 teams by the end of it.
Congratulations, Paint Valley too.
Yes,
they got a win there. I know they've been working hard to get one, and they were able to kind of to break the ice there and get one. So I know those kids have been working hard, and they were able to they're down there, the 14 So
Yeah.
they're, again, looking at a team like West. Obviously, that's a tough matchup, but good to see them get a win.
Yeah, and you had kids, Brendan Eisen had 25 on the night, Jace Reinhardt 23, Landon Elliott with 10. I think
Reinhardt's been really
Yeah.
consistent as a senior for a young group, and then it was nice to see Eisen break out last night. We mentioned that earlier in the year for them, and obviously when you get two guys score up into the 20s there, your team starts to look a lot different.
Yeah, and that was the game where we looked at of like, oh, that might be the last chance they've got to get a win, and it was good for them to be able to pull out that win at home. Also, it's a 4-month season, and you play a lot of games, and it's tough. You always want to see, like, I coached through a season where we won one game. It's part of the process of turning things around, and for Paint Valley, it will probably still be a couple years before, but I do think they've got some nice pieces that are coming up through, and you could see a turnaround. And it starts with, it can be a really tough season, but get that one win, it feels pretty good afterwards. So congratulations to the Bearcats as well. So then down to Division 7. Right now, it appears that Racine Southern is going to be the one. Right now, they're at 14-2. Fairfield and South Webster probably in that 2-3 spot. And then you've got Notre Dame is going to be in that 4. Those 4 have really separated themselves from the rest. But Green, who had a pretty sizable lead against Notre Dame, has shown that they can really compete at that top level. And Manchester's got a 1,000-point scorer. White Oak can really score the basketball. And then we saw that Western team yesterday. They've got a lot of different pieces.
Yeah, well, Racine's obviously really, really good. I think I watched video this week of a couple of their guys hitting 1,000 points. Was that here recently? Really, really talented. And then Fairfield, we've had them on our stream. Incredible backcourt with Brendan Smith that really could score it. They played well last night against a quality opponent. And then we've had South Webster as well and Notre Dame. I agree. I probably look at those top 4 that they're going to be tough to knock off there. If those seeds do hold, I think those could certainly make for some great matchups as we get a little deeper into the tournament.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. So let's jump over just to kind of go through some of the games to watch this week. We'll just kind of roll through them. We've got some different streaming games throughout the week, but let's jump to that first. So the games that we're going to stream on Tuesday. Tuesday will be Eastern Brown at Waverly. Will be a really fun stream for us to do. You and Carson will have that one. This Eastern Brown team playing really well, but man, Waverly they're a tough matchup for anybody.
They are, and they keep getting better every time we see them. Again, they're starting to grow up more and more. I think last year's, I've said this several times on the air this year, I think last year's end of the year success probably set the expectation up at a pretty tough standard for this year. Some nights they've been there, some nights they haven't, but man, they're a good basketball team led by Alexander there to guard that can really go get it. And then Eastern, we've talked a lot about their depth. I think their inside-out play will be a big factor in that. I think Myers defensively, both Myers defensively will be really, really important, trying to protect the paint.
Yeah.
But man, that's got a chance to be just an outstanding game because we watched the physicality of Waverly Jackson from floor level. Now going to see Eastern come at it in a very similar physicality. And that could be another game where points are a little bit hard to come by.
Yeah, and then Friday we're also going to have Chesapeake at Portsmouth. Will be another live stream game this week. Should be. I know it was a game that was a pretty sizable difference in the last one as far as Chesapeake was concerned, but this is a Portsmouth team. They play well at home. They beat Ironton at home. Should be a really interesting matchup.
Now, you'd think in that one points would not be hard to come by, but at the same time, I think like what I watched here recently in the Fairland Chesapeake game was the more I watch that matchup, I just feel like man, Fairland wants to play up and down. And a lot of nights that works, but against Chesapeake wants to play up and down. Chesapeake's just more talented. You know what I mean? So, like, it'll be interesting to see, can Portsmouth find a happy medium of keeping the game from getting too much up and down. Chesapeake's just really, really talented. Their versatility's off the charts. I think you have to really be confident in your ability to score the basketball if you're going to just roll the ball out and play a track meet with them.
Yeah, they are a really tough matchup overall. But I do like the versatility that Portsmouth can bring out.
I agree with that.
As well. So I mean, that one I do think has the capabilities to be a really fun matchup on Friday night, and at the very least should see some really good offensive basketball.
Yeah, no question. Should be
so
fun.
Let's jump to some other games, and this is going to be this might be the most of like, hey, we might miss some stuff on this because stuff is getting rescheduled, getting put at different times, different dates. You just kind of, if you're not on every school's calendar, which we're not, you may miss one. So we're going to go over the games that we have on the schedule that we know, and then we'll just talk about, just kind of go through on those nights. So I would just keep your head around on all the social medias and everything to see if your favorite team is playing, because they probably are playing at some point this week, multiple different days. I would guess most teams are going to try to get at least 3 games in during the week.
I think you owe it to your kids. I mean, you hate the idea of not playing 22 games. It's just whatever it takes to try to get that in there. You always have kids chasing milestones. You have teams trying to fight for winning seasons. You have teams that are maybe trying to just reach certain goals or whatever it may be, and you just want to maximize your ability to play down the stretch. But you're right, the reschedules are sometimes tough to know about, and if you're not careful, you end up missing some big games.
Right. A nice one on Tuesday. You got Uniota at Fairfield. That's going to be a really good guard matchup. That's going to be a tough matchup for Uniota. Just
Uniota actually plays Piketon Monday night for the gold ball, so that's going to be a back-to-back there, and you're right. That's a phenomenal matchup on Tuesday night with those 2 guards that Fairfield has against the way Uniota can guard the basketball.
Yep, should be a fun matchup in Leesburg. Vinton County at Washington on Tuesday. Meigs at Jackson. We're not even going to get to the biggest one yet, but like North Adams at Wheelersburg is on Tuesday. These are just some different non-league matchups as well. West at Green, it's going to be a good test for Green there. Let me go down. RCCA at Peebles. That's going to be some points because those are going to be.
Bet the over?
Yes, take the over no matter what it is on that one. You've got Ironton at Gallia Academy. I think Gallia Academy is one of those teams that we're going to keep our eye on in the postseason the next year as well. Waterford at Nelsonville York. We talked about both of those teams as teams to watch. But man, the biggest one on Tuesday night, Chillicothe at Miami Trace. Oh man, that's a Miami Trace team that has not played for quite some time as well.
Well, and that's a factor there a little bit. I talked to Coach Beard yesterday during the break before they played, and because obviously they had already planned to get down there early to scout a little bit the game beforehand that didn't get played. But we were just talking about his team. We were talking about Miami Trace a little bit. We were talking about the FAC, and you could tell that the FAC takes a lot of pride in the depth they have in that conference this year, and rightfully so. And you're right. You look at Chillicothe and what they've been able to kind of grow into this year. But man, those losses right around the holiday break really woke Miami Trace up, and they've been playing at an all-time level. That you're right. That could be really, really good.
Then Wednesday, I know a reschedule. Adena at Westfall. That's going to be a tight one. Adena at.
Well, we got caught in the middle too. We wanted to pick our games back up, but that's the night we're doing the girls' game, right? So it's both. So
also on Monday, Adena at Northwest. I think that has a chance to be a really good game as well. So then let's jump to Friday. We mentioned Circleville at Uniota, really good point guard, really good matchup overall anyway. That one should be a really fun one. Zane Trace at Huntington on Friday.
Standings implications there, and that we mentioned that earlier. If you weren't with us, the third place on the line there for Huntington. If they would lose, they would need Adena to lose that game. So by the time they take the floor, they'll kind of know if that's still on play. And then Zane Trace just trying to continue to put together an incredible run, finish off 12-2 in the conference there, and they're still chasing a chance at a 21 season. I mean, they'll have to do some in the tournament too.
Right.
But that's a basketball team that could win 20 basketball games.
Yeah, that'd be outstanding once again for them. They did it a year ago, reaching the district final. Miami Trace at Washington. That's got a chance to be that's going to be that's going to be a wild crowd after not being able to see a whole lot over the last couple of weeks. You've got
how about that week for Miami Trace?
Yeah, that's a tough one, especially after not playing for so long.
Yeah.
You got Valley at Minford, Waverly at West, Wheelersburg at South Webster, Sims Valley at Eastern Pike. That one's got a chance to be a really interesting game in that SOC 2. Notre Dame at Clay. Clay's been playing a lot better the second half of the season. You can see the coaching has really started to pick that up a little bit. Moving down. You got Vinton County at Wellston. That's a big one for Wellston. We talked about, they've got to win out.
That's a big one for Vinton County too, because Vinton County has, they fought through some adversity this year, and they've been really up and down. They swept Mags, but then you lose to Wellston, you lose to Nelsonville. In a rivalry game, they don't want to lose the season series to Wellston. If they have a chance to knock Wellston out of first place of the TVC Ohio, I'm sure that wouldn't break their heart either.
Yeah, and then maybe the game of the night, Jackson at Chillicothe.
Yeah,
that crowd will be real wild.
Well, Chillicothe, like I said, they're playing at a level that I think everybody over the last year knew that eventually could come. Now that they're playing there, what an incredible test for them to take on Miami Trace and Jackson here to kind of see where they're at going into the postseason.
Then Saturday, we got North Adams at Eastern Brown. That was a tight one the first time around. It seems like North Adams is really settling in. They've won their last 5 in Eastern Brown. We both are super high on as well. And then Peebles at Fairfield. That one's got a chance. Let me double check on this, on just the overall standings of the Shack. I believe for Peebles, if they win out, they will have no worse than a share with Fayetteville.
What's Fayetteville now?
Fayetteville is 10-2. They've got Manchester left.
Didn't someone just beat Fayetteville kind of bad that jumped out? Was that recently?
That was Fairfield. Fairfield beat them by 29 a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Any explanation for that for me, or? Obviously,
hold on. I think I had a joking one. Oh, Brody Smith. That was an explanation. Oh, okay. I knew one of them went kind of crazy. He had 24 in the game. So, but that was a game where Brody Smith scores 24. Zach Asherak had 11. Hit 3 threes for them, and that's big.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, when they get a third or fourth kid into the scoring column, and it comes from the 3-point line, what that does is it just kind of spreads the court a little bit more for those dynamic two to go to work.
And this might be the biggest thing on that. Griffin Friend only had 8 points in the game, but he had 6 assists. And that's when they're really dangerous, is whenever he's able to find people and they're able to knock down shots. Caleb Rice hit a couple threes in that game as well. So, they hit 8 threes in the game. So that would probably be the explanation. But, for Peebles, if they were able to win out, they would get a share with Fayetteville, I believe. I don't want to guarantee because some people got mad when because of that head-to-head
You're
factor.
making people in the Shack mad at you.
I know, which those are the types of people I don't want to make mad because I actually like those people. So, but that'll be for the games week. As we said, keep an eye out. It could be games they're not going to just pop up out of nowhere, but you may think that they pop up out of nowhere. They probably got mentioned at some point. Hey, we're going to reschedule this date. Right now, Wednesday and Thursday don't look like they have a whole lot. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a whole lot. By the time that comes, we talked about 2 different Monday games that got added recently as well. So keep your eyes out on that. So let's jump over to the girls' side. On the girls' side, we had not a whole lot going on the girls' side, but man, one of the better games I've been to this year on the girls' side. Eastern Brown beats North Adams 50-46. Just an outstanding game. And this is the one I was talking about. I was informed Eastern Brown actually gets the Shack 1 title based on the head-to-head tiebreaker, where they both had the same record, both 10-3 in the league, but Eastern Brown beats North Adams both times, and because of that head-to-head factor comes into it, which would give Eastern Brown the solo title. I just always go back to, hey, you tied. Yeah. You had the same record. But what I was told is kind of carrying on to that.
Well, and that's an interesting thing. That's a whole other podcast topic on another day that we could break into. But I was just impressed with Eastern Brown's ability to do what they did. Obviously, Burns was terrific in the loss, but I'd even asked you that day before you had left for the game. You feel like Eastern still has enough here in the second half to beat them again. And to your credit, you said you thought they did. You thought it would be a game that comes down to the last couple possessions, and you nailed it, obviously, in a tight game. But man, that's hats off to Eastern Brown. That's outstanding. And North Adams still going to be a really dangerous team with great guard play into the tournament. But that one's got to sting a little bit anytime you have a chance to win the league and it kind of slips through. That's got to be hard to stomach.
Okay, I said we weren't going to do a discussion. I wasn't really going to yell about anything. I'm mad. I just thought about something I'm mad about.
Okay. Can
we stop the overrated chant? It doesn't work. Like, it never actually impacts the player that you're saying is overrated. Because in that one, Eastern had a great student section, really good student section. But right before the half, they start chanting overrated at Tinsley Burns because she had only had 8 points in the first half. She gets fouled. She goes to the foul line. They start chanting overrated. She hits the first one, missed the second one. But they get an offensive rebound, throw it back out to her. She hits a 3 at the buzzer to give her 12 points at the half, make it a 1-point game. I was just like, yeah, it never works. It never works. Like, at no point. I think it was the same night. Miley Smith at Uniota misses like her first 3 shots, and the Payne Valley kids start chanting overrated. Then she scored the next 18 points of the game. It's just like, don't do it. Don't poke that bear. If they're having a bad game, let them have a bad game. Yeah. You don't want them to be like to refocus in. So just don't do it. So get rid of the overrated. Just let's just play. Yeah. Cheer for your team. Cheer for your team, because your team, I guarantee you, is like, I'm sure Coach Pickerel wasn't like, oh yeah, let's talk some trash to this kid, because Tinsley Burns is unbelievable, just an outstanding overall player. She ended up the night with 26, and it was really good. The Pistol Sisters were really good for Eastern, or not Eastern, but for North Adams as well. But man, the overall just I don't want to say really overall depth for Eastern in that game. Their high scorer was Sophia Ohl with 11. She had 7 straight to end the third quarter. Was just completely took over the game late in the third, but she was her leading scorer with 11. Her sister Olivia Ohl had 10. Alyssa Johnson had 10. Alyssa Fisher had 8. And then Bentley Burns had 9 points, 12 rebounds off the bench. So, I mean, they just had a lot of depth. And, they didn't play a whole lot of players. They only played 7. Shaylin Minjere had 2 off the bench. And then Vivian Grimes, it might sound crazy to say, because Tinsley Burns had 26 points, that she played good defense on her. She had to earn all of those points. And Grimes, I thought, handled the ball well. She had 5 assists in the game. The only 3 turnovers when the pressure was up. Coach Pickerel said he thought that was the best his guards played all year as far as handling the ball. Between Grimes and Fisher, I thought were really good. Made it to where the bigs could just kind of do their thing. Just really impressed with what they were able to do in the matchup. North Adams has a lot of good basketball ahead of them, but just ultimately a really good win for Eastern.
Yeah, no question about it. And as you rattle that off, obviously the depth is where it's at. several different kids that can do a little bit of scoring rather than maybe leaning on one or two people to do a lot of scoring. And throughout the course of the game, 50-46, as you said, in that third quarter run, you get that little spurt and you get a chance to not maybe know where it's going to come from, but that balance is certainly a big thing, especially in championship level basketball.
Yeah, it's a you need that type of balance when in a game like that where it was really two players scored for North Adams as opposed to the five players scoring for Eastern, and then you don't have to rely so much on one singular player and that. So let's jump to a singular player that had a really big accomplishment this week. Only a junior, Adena's Marley Halcomb scores her 1,000th career point in a tight overtime loss to Southeastern. But man, she had a really big week. She had 30 earlier in the week, and then she had a couple more big games throughout the week as well. Can you just talk about what an outstanding basketball player that Marley Halcomb is?
Yeah, she's been terrific. Really led this team this year in the Side Valley Conference to the top half finish. And she's a kid that I wouldn't describe her as a volume shooter at all. She's very efficient, even if she plays a lot on the perimeter. She's a very efficient kid. She stays within their system. She gets a lot of stuff just out of their X's and O's, out of their quick hitter packages. But you know what's happened, John, in the second half for junior year, the light bulb's starting to go off. And what's scary for opponents over the next year here is it's starting to become a little easier. You know what I mean? It's one of those things, as you said, here over the last couple of weeks, that's even gone to another level. The average is starting to come up. Adena girls basketball has a pretty rich history. If you look at the scoring list, that they're outstanding. Their Athletic Boosters is an incredible follow on social media. They do an incredible job promoting past and present. And they put out a scoring list. She breaks into the top 10 now, and you look that certainly going to be top 3, top 2s on the board. Probably can't catch the great Emily Hammond, who led them to a state championship back in the 90s. But Marley's really talented. She can score in a lot of different ways, and love her composure. Love the way she plays through a lot of contact, through a lot of adversity, and just kind of stays composed and competes hard. Just a terrific player.
Yeah, she averages 17.7 points, 7.8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, about 3.5 steals, nearly a block a game as well. She's also hit 43s on the season, as you said, just calm and collective player overall. Shoots well at the free throw line, and just is the type of player that you build a program around, and that's what's happened over the last couple of years. And the wins and losses haven't been there the way they were hoping for this year, but I think it's just going to build to a big year next year because you've got some players that are playing in some different positions that maybe they weren't expecting to going back to the summer. But now you're adjusting on the fly. I think Coach Newland's doing a nice job with them there. I really like the Farrell sisters. I think Josie Mallard does a good job.
I agree.
Jaylin Jett had a big game in their game on Saturday as well. So, I mean, they're going to be okay. Yeah. Like, it's just, sometimes you take some lumps along the way, and if you're going to take some lumps, you want to have a player like a Marley Halcomb, because that's going to give you a chance every night out. And basketball might not be your best sport. So, I mean, that's get ready to hear us talk a lot about her during softball season as well. So congratulations to her on an outstanding accomplishment. Once again, only a junior. So expect her to have a really big senior year as well coming up. Speaking of a senior, a huge night on senior night where I was able to get over there. It was White Oak at Southeastern. Gracie Brown was unbelievable for Southeastern in that game. As a game they win by 34 points over a White Oak team that's dealing with some transfers having to sit, but it didn't matter on that night. She hits 4 threes in the first quarter, including her first 4, hit 7 threes on the night. She ended up with 28 points in the game, sat most of the fourth quarter as well on her senior night. Don't look now. This Southeastern team is kind of doing what we expected them to do at the beginning of the year. They're 9-2 since Reese Ruckle returned from injury.
Yeah, obviously a nightmare start with playing without your post presence. Anytime you're taking away, about 12 rebounds somewhere in that ballpark every night, you're going to feel it as she returns. It's kind of stabilized the middle. Keep in mind, Brown is a sophomore. You go back 2 years ago, she hit close to 63s on the year. Last year, she had to take over the point guard duties. This year, she's been able to kind of find both. It's so neat to watch the growth in her game because she's still taking care of the balls, the point guard duties, but she's starting to learn a little bit more how to create space off the dribble. Obviously, they can still run stuff. The return of Ruckle, now with both Ruckles in the middle, defenses have had to collapse a little bit more. I think that's opened up the three-point line a little bit. But you're right, 9-2. What a great turnaround, big-time win there against Adena. Just feel real good for Coach Heiss and his girls because it had been real easy to quit on it there. This is a senior group that's been pretty successful coming up through Little League, junior high, into high school. All of a sudden, you get a real bad break with a volleyball injury, or at least that's when the injury happened, was volleyball, and then lingers over into the first half of the year. But, man, who could argue at 9-2? I know they got a couple of tough games coming up here, but be interested to see in the tournament time if they can avoid – how long they can avoid some of those top teams, maybe pick up a win.
Yeah, they have a just glancing at it real quick. They will play at Adena in the first round. So I mean, the winner gets a nice gift of Portsmouth. But it's still it's a winnable opening round matchup for both Adena and Southeastern as they just went to overtime.
I know I'm not allowed to call it this anymore, but is that the sectional championship?
Pretty much, yeah. Okay. Yeah, the next round would be the district semis. So yes. Okay. Wait. Hold on. Yep. Okay. So you're welcome.
Yeah, that's an interesting game for both. Obviously, it gives you an idea how competitive the two teams are with the game they just played. But look, that game film can go a long way, I'm sure, for both teams now. As teams get a better feel for Southeastern with everybody back.
Well, and then if you're Coach Heiss, you have to feel pretty good because in that game, Reese Ruckle did not play very well. So Rowan Ruckle had a nice night for them. Gracie Brown, once again, is proving to be one of the better players in the SVC, not just on that senior night, but just overall as well. She's been really good for them. You've got some nice pieces as well. Allie Fisher can play. Jay Turner. You've seen, Dill Skaggs. She had a good game in that Waterford game, or not Waterford, White Oak game as well. Yeah. They've just got some nice pieces. They also had all of their seniors scored on senior night, including Maris Ware had her first varsity points in that game. So it was pretty cool to see the kids get excited for their teammate on senior day. Abby Millett's another senior for them. So they've just got some nice pieces, and overall they're going to be a matchup that no one's going to really be super amped for because you've got the Ruckles that do what they do and do it really well. I mean, they're going to get you 10 and 10 every night, each of them. So I mean, that's pretty much a double-double, not guaranteed, but pretty close to guaranteed between the two. 20 points, 20 rebounds is probably going to happen between those two. And then you have Gracie Brown that can really shoot it. That makes them a tough matchup overall.
Yeah, no question. Congrats to Coach Heiss in the second half of the year they've had. And then best of luck to both those SVC teams. That's going to be an outstanding sectional championship matchup.
And then let's move. We're not going to go outside the SVC. Let's stay in the SVC. One more thing. Piketon's Jaylin Forbes. Okay, so we had those games yesterday. Really good, or Saturday. Really good games. Sometimes you'd have a slow start shooting wise. I will tell you who is not having a slow start shooting wise is Piketon girls. We had them. Layla Kelly hit 6 threes, 34 points against McLean. Jaylin Forbes then this week had 59 points in 2 games, including hitting 8 threes in a win over Westfall. She had 31, and then they play Zane Trace, and she just slacks off with only 28 in that game. So, I mean, and then you had Maddie Hale, who's shooting the ball really well for them as well. That makes them a really tough matchup, but Forbes was outstanding all week for the Red Streaks.
Yeah, it's a great sign because as she comes up on the end of her junior year, we talked about it, her teammate Kelly, in terms of, well, this is probably true for Halcomb as well. You get to that second half of your junior year, and the game slows down, and you just kind of start to take it to a whole nother level. And I think that's the thing with Forbes. She's always been a big-time defender. She's been a good scorer. You're talking about a kid that over the last year and a half now has been 11 a game or whatever. But there's times you watch her play and you're like, I don't know if she quite looks at the rim enough. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's her instinct to go score first. And a lot of times when you go and you score 20-some in a game, you're like, well, that was fun. You know what I mean? And like you realize that it's something you can do over and over and over, and you don't have to necessarily take a ton of shots to do it. And so when she shoots the three ball, she becomes a really tough matchup because she is a dynamic athlete. She's getting stronger all the time and can really get to the rim off the dribble and finish around the rim. So. Man, what a great sign. I assume Piketon did stay in that three, right? So they'll avoid Fairland and Portsmouth. What's their bracket look like?
They would get Rock Hill to start, and then they would get the winner of Wheelersburg and River Valley in the district semifinal. I mean, those are winnable games, but also
don't hate it.
Yeah,
don't hate it. I mean, good teams, but again, Fairland and Portsmouth are so good.
Yeah.
You're just wanting anything away from them. You're like, I don't hate it.
Yeah, and then on the bottom of that is Eastern Brown is the 4, so the 3 and 4 stay together, and then Alexander is the 9. So it depends really on Alexander's health on that one. If Alexander's healthy, they're going to be a sneaky team in that. And then Huntington is actually in that bottom half of that, and Huntington's a team you don't really want to play either because they, Brandon Hosworth is a really outstanding player. So not the easiest, but at the same time, you avoid Portsmouth and Fairland.
Yeah.
You give yourself a chance down the road. And with a team that really, they start one senior, 2 seniors on the team, but it's mostly juniors and below, you got to feel pretty good about your road and then with what the future brings for you as well.
Yeah, every experience just leads to the next one, and that team's continued to kind of climb the ladder, right? They're competing at the top of the SVC, just behind the Uniota team, and that'll be another step they're looking into next year. Now into the tournament, they're trying to compete at a district level, and whatever this year brings, I'm sure next year the expectation will go up even more.
Yeah, and then speaking of a team with probably pretty high expectations for next year, maybe the win of the season in the Southeast District, Circleville with a 50-47 win over Harvest Prep. What a win for the Tigers.
Well, I know it certainly caught, you've been on an SVC theme there for a while. I know that final score certainly caught the attention of some Uniota people based on their experience with Harvest Prep. So, yes, Circleville scoring 50 points is what jumped out at me in that. When Circleville is able to put some points on the board, I like seeing them play with just a little bit of that tempo on the offensive end because it takes some pressure off of their defense. But, yeah, I mean, I didn't see the game. I saw the final score. I'm going to admit that I took a second take and verified it on another source.
I took a third and fourth take.
But, again, I mean, it's a big-time win.
Well, just it's a team that looks like they rebounded the ball really well. Didn't turn it over. I mean, they turned it over a lot still 21 times, but they forced 21 turnovers. And the thing that Harvest Prep did against Uniota is they shot the 3 ball really well. Well, they held them to 20% on this, 420. So they only hit 3 threes, but Edgington was able to get to the line and was really good at the line. So Addison
we highlighted that on our stream. Shoots it up over 70% on the year.
Yeah, so she was 5 of 13 from the field, but she was 9 of 12 from the line, 75%. So she shoots the ball well there. She's 19 points, 9 rebounds for her. She also had 3 blocks. Maddie Blakeman, 15 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Brooklyn Kramer had 10 points. She had 6 rebounds, 5 steals. So she was able to cause some havoc. I mean, really, and then you had McConnell had 8 rebounds in the game as well. So, I mean, it felt like they had their three key players offensively did their scoring, and then McConnell, Sims Ross, West, McLaughlin, all were able to contribute in a positive way to help them get a win. That's a huge win for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said. Everything you said, I agree with. I just, that gives you a lot of confidence as you get in the tournament and you know you're going to come up on some really, really stiff competition. That gives you something to draw upon to say, okay, look, our like I always like to say, our good is good enough, right? We don't have to play some amazing game or whatever. If we go out and we play good, it's been proven that our good is good enough.
Yeah, and then if you're the Uniota, people probably looking at it like, man, were they missing players? Well, against Uniota, they played 8. They only played 7 in this game, but there wasn't one player that just
Yeah.
scored 40 in that game. So, I mean,
The
it's
3-point line
yeah.
is an X factor sometimes that blows the game open. Listen, Uniota plays in far more space than Circleville. So Uniota, I watched the game. Uniota didn't mind playing with some tempo with Harvest Prep. What put Harvest Prep's athletes out in space and they shot the 3 and so forth. Where I didn't see this game, so I'm guessing now, but I'm guessing knowing how Circleville plays that Circleville made it far more uncomfortable for them to get going. And then if the 3 ball wasn't falling, I'm sure points were a little bit harder to come by. I mean, they still scored 47 in the loss. The Circleville 50 is probably what jumped out at me more than anything.
Yeah, probably the 50 and 47 probably for more of Harvest Prep was able to get a little bit of pace going. But
the 12 free throws, and you know, for her individually, the other thing it does is it stops the game.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have Harvest Prep doing this. You know what I mean? It
Yes.
has that you go down here, you stop. And you come down here and you stop. And that's certainly the way Circleville would rather play that game against Harvest Prep.
Yep, and a great win for Circleville on that going into that Division 4 tournament, and they've got to feel pretty good about themselves after a couple of tough losses. But that tough schedule they've played is really what is going to get them ready for that Division 4, and they want to make another step after reaching the district finals last year. They want to reach the regionals this year and maybe beyond as well. So let's look at the tournament. I've got it still listed as the RPI rundown, but it's going to be the tournament. The tournament draw came out today, so we will go Division 3 on. Okay, I'm going to complain about something else too. Why is Division 1 and Division 2? I know there's less teams. Why did they get to play the whole season before their tournament draw comes out? Like, just not a big fan of that. So, and of course, now
you know where I stand on that. I mean, if only we had this technology like where a computer could have rankings and give it to us like immediate. Like we could wait till the end of the year. Oh yeah, we don't.
Yeah, like I get it in Division 5, but you know the last game's count on Friday. Just on Saturday, just call up Coach Hughes and say, hey, where do you want to play? You want to go Southeast, Southwest? Southeast? Okay. All right. Coach Buchanan, you go Southeast or Southwest? You're the 2 seed. Southwest. Okay. Well, then, hey, Piketon, you're going to be in the Southeast. You don't have to tell Piketon. And they're the 3. Maybe you give them a courtesy call of like, hey, you don't have a choice now. Like, you go into the other side. But that's literally all you have to do is just call and see which bracket they want to go into. They tell you, all right, now let's put out that. It can go out the second that stuff comes out. But for some reason, the Division 3 bracket, of course, not showing up, but I was able to look at it a little bit earlier. Uniota gets the 1. The 2 goes to Sheridan. Like, that's a heck of a program. I mean, they keep losing, they keep graduating players, and you see what they have coming back, and you're like, oh, well, sounds like they're probably going to be off a little bit. They're not. It just seems like they just reload all the time, and they're going to be the 2. Athens dropped to the 3, which I mean those 2 don't really matter as much. I mean the 2 and 3, and then one team gets out to play a team from the East, which I believe it's either going to be Tri-Valley or Steubenville. Probably going to be one of those 2.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned Steubenville last week.
Coach Miller did speak really highly on what the regional will be. He's like, man, if you can get out of the district, it's a wide open regional. So whoever gets out of that, it's going to be a possible chance to get to Dayton. Still have to play well, obviously, but I feel like it's a little more open than it has been in the past. So let's jump to Division 4. Circleville will be the 1 seed. They are the 1 seed. This kind of opened up a little bit too. Logan Elm's going to be the 2. They had a couple of losses later in the season, but seemed like they have kind of righted the ship a little bit. The 3 is going to be McLean. McLean is, as of now, FAC champions. Could be one half of the FAC champions. Hillsborough won't play their final game until later this week.
Plays Jackson.
They play Jackson,
Yep.
yeah. So if they could beat Jackson, that will be a split for the FAC. The 4 and 5, Hillsborough will be the 4, Warren will be the 5. That's a trip for Warren to Hillsborough. So I mean, I think that's the worst one you could have. Looking at the Division 4, because it will be played at Hillsborough, so Hillsborough gets that big advantage of that home game. But that's a Warren team that has been dealing with injuries throughout the year. They seem like they are playing pretty well at the right time. Waverly has dropped down to 6th. I mean, they have.
I want to be fair
yeah.
to Waverly, though, because we watched them early in the year and we probably sold them short, and then they got hot, and then all of a sudden here they've started to lose a little bit. But let's not act like they've gone out and just started losing by 30. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they've also lost to some pretty good teams. So, I mean, I think Waverly at 12-7 is a good basketball team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that matchups are probably a key there. When they get in certain matchups, they're a pretty long athletic bunch. So if they get in a situation there where they can use some of that, they're probably going to be good. There's probably certain matchups that really get after them, pressure the basketball, make it tough for them to get into their stuff that gives them fits. Let me ask you a question, see if you agree with this. Circleville is obviously really, really good. We just highlighted their Harvest Prep win. I mean, they can obviously beat anybody.
Yeah.
But they're not a team that wants to go play this explosive brand of basketball, right? They're a little bit more of an efficient. We agree on that? So they're the type of top seed that there's probably 5, 6, 7 teams in this. I might be stretching it there. 4 or 5 teams in this particular bracket that on a given night could at least get them in a tempo where they could get into the fourth quarter and have a chance. Is that fair?
Yeah, I believe so. They actually only had a 2-point win over Hillsborough.
Right.
Earlier
And
this
that's
year,
what I'm saying. Like Hillsborough's really good. I mean, Hillsborough might have the best player in the whole tournament. You know what I mean? Like she's really good. So like I think on a given night, you have like an Ingram at Logan Elm. You have a Pryor that just went over 1,000 points at McLean. You have the Davis girl there at Hillsborough. So you have, and you mentioned the talent at Warren. Yeah. You have kids that can go and keep you in games and get yourself into the second half when you're trying to pull an upset. I guess that's the only point I'm making is sometimes styles lead to upsets.
Yes, I agree with that completely. And that's what makes this Division 4 tournament really interesting because of what Hillsborough already did against Circleville, where they really competed at a high level, gave themselves a chance late in the game, and then ultimately Circleville was able to win it. Maddie Blakeman was huge in that game. She had 19.
Yeah.
And that was the difference. She had 19. Tyler Davis had 17. Yeah. So, I mean, but would they be able to hold Addison Edgington to 6 shot attempts again?
Well, and when you're playing, the point I'm making too about explosive is when you're trying to pull an all-time upset, right, with a top seed, like Uniota with a Miley Smith, a Fairland, a Portsmouth. Those teams, at some point in the game, they almost just post a point total you're not getting to. Yeah. I guess my point with like a Circleville or like a Greenfield or some of these is you might be able to at least get them into a tempo. Well, hey, we can hang in there. We can kind of maybe get hot from the three-point line. They might play a tempo with us on this particular night that we can play at.
Yes.
That's the only difference I'm making in terms of how some teams just score at a level where you're like, I can't score that many.
Right. Yeah, and that just makes it a really interesting matchup. So, it'll be interesting to see where this district goes. Now, the good thing, and I'll go back to Waverly on this, is you get South Point in that first game. Maybe you figure some stuff out in that game. Like you get the home game, then you got to go to McLean, who you've already played.
Yeah, get some confidence.
Yeah, get some confidence going. That's where. Maybe dropping down to that 6 instead of
the
the 5.
physicality of Greenfield's really a problem for Waverly, but at least Waverly does have some length and some athleticism that can compete on the front line a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. So that's going to give them at least a puncher's chance in that one. And I'll tell you what, Jackson down to the 10. has played really well lately. So I mean, they've gotten 7 wins. I mean, it's probably a long shot for them to beat a Fairfield Union, but it seems like they have, after a couple of tough seasons, they've gotten more wins this season than the last 2 combined. So credit to them.
Yeah, no question.
Let's jump to Division 5. This is the big one in the Southeast. Let me count this real quick. I believe it's 25 teams. Yeah, 25 teams. So when I say it's the big one, it is the big one. So Portsmouth gets the 1 seed. They opt to go into the Southeast 1, which goes into the Southeast Regional. Fairland, the 2 seed, gets the 2 seed, so they have the option to go either into the Southeast Regional or to go to the Southwest, which they won last year pretty handily. They will once again go to the Southwest. So a third matchup with Portsmouth would have to take place in Dayton at the state tournament. I don't know if it would possibly be a semifinal like it was last year, or possibly if it would get to a final, but there's the possibility in the Southeast District to get 2 teams to the Final Four, which is what you can, all you can hope for if you're a fan of Southeast basketball, is to get that matchup once again. And I will tell you who doesn't want that matchup once again would be a Piketon at the 3 seed. They want to shake things up. They want to be that team to possibly make it there.
Yeah, it's a unique opportunity for Southeast Ohio that, quite frankly, I can't remember ever really existing. In the past, you would come to a point where you'd play each other and you'd have to knock one another out. And it's just changing of the divisions, changing of the brackets, changing of different things. We talked about different times leading to different opportunities for Southeast Ohio. I think we've already watched it last year. I think we've watched it in multiple sports. Here's another example of what I'm talking about. It's a great time to have teams like this that can take advantage of it and put our Southeast Ohio on a statewide state level stage.
Yes, I agree completely. So we had 2 state champions last year, Portsmouth and Waterford. Let's see if something good can happen again this year. But Portsmouth will be the 1 seed, currently 16-2. Well, actually, I don't know if I can say currently because they are playing right now in Louisville. They're playing George Rogers Clark, one of the really good teams out of Louisville.
If I put you on the spot right now and said a Southeast District team will win the state championship in Division 5.
Yes.
You like that?
Yes, because Fairland has gotten to the Final Four 4 times. They have not won.
So they're hungry to get over the hump.
Hungry to get over the hump. Portsmouth has that experience of doing it. Fairland beat Portsmouth once already this year, but man, I just don't like.
I know.
With the way their schedules are, they are going to be ready for anything in front of them. I like taking those 2 teams against the field.
I think it's fair.
Yeah.
Based on it's not like we're taking some shot in the dark on hey, they could get there. Like they've already kind of been there, done that. Mm-hmm. The big upset would be them not even getting to that stage. And then so once they're there, why not?
Yeah, they have experience. They both have competed at a high level when they've gotten there before, and I just don't see any reason why not this year. So if you go down in that bracket a little bit, we talked a little bit about the Piketon district, which would be Piketon is the 3, Eastern Brown is the 4. Eastern Brown's really performed well throughout this year, maybe a year ahead of schedule for them. But man, they've got some really nice pieces as well. Piketon, once again, maybe a year ahead of schedule. This is a Wheelersburg team that's played a really tough schedule as well. That SOC 3 is really balanced.
Very balanced.
They still have a chance to win that. They've got to deal with West. Well, Waverly has to deal with Minford and West. So, I mean, that's very out in the open as well. Alexander, very senior heavy, very guard heavy team. Those are some interesting teams. River Valley, as we've said, has a 1,000-point scorer. Huntington has a really nice piece in Hosworth, and they've won a lot of games in the past. They seem like they're playing better late in the season as well. So I think that district is. I would say Piketon's the favorite in that, but I do think it is fairly wide open on just how competitive it's going to be. I think those are going to be some really good games there. I'll jump to the Southeast 3. So Fairland's the 1. They'll take on Northwest. They will play the winner of Minford and West Union. And then Chesapeake will play Zane Trace. Portsmouth West will play Westfall. Westfall, man, if West isn't healthy, Westfall's got some kids that can really score the basketball. But man, if West is healthy, I think they've got a really good chance to face Fairland in a district championship game. I think that one's kind of wide open on the bottom half as well. And then jumping up to the Portsmouth, Portsmouth will play the winner of Meigs and Wellston. Meigs has beaten Wellston twice this year, more than likely going to be Meigs. And then Adena Southeastern, as we mentioned, that was an overtime game this week that Southeastern ends up winning. And then in the bottom of that, you've got some really good individual players. North Adams, with Tinsley Burns. You also have the Pistol Sisters. And then New Lexington, Chloe Dick. They've got, they play a really tough league. That could be a really fun district semifinal matchup at the Waverly Downtown Gym between North Adams and New Lexington if it comes down to that.
Absolutely.
But ultimately, you still got to go.
So again, you're so unique with a Portsmouth Fairland there. You're just trying to figure out your path to go as deep as you can before you see one of them. You're trying to get to the district championship, roll the ball out and see what happens. But nonetheless, you can get your runner-up finish, especially if you're a team that has some youth and is going to be back in this again next year. That goes a long way. But at the same time, you got to be intrigued if you're in that Piketon bracket. You got to feel like there's a lot of different teams that feel like they have a real opportunity there to compete for a district title, and that's going to make for some really competitive basketball.
Yeah, it should be some really fun games down at the downtown gymnasium as they always are. And we look forward to at least seeing those games. I don't know what we'll be doing on the call for some of those games later in the tournament, so I don't want to guarantee anything that we won't be doing. So let's jump over to Division 6. The 1 seed is Federal Hawking, the Lancers, with an outstanding junior backcourt. And they are a tough matchup with whoever they're going to be playing. It's Cottrell got her 1,000th point already. Just going through, Takara Walker is the other one. She's only a sophomore actually. Then you got Michaela Nelson, who's a junior, a really good player as well. And this is it's a well-coached team. They've played a really tough schedule, which is what got them into that 1 seed, despite having one more loss than Colgrove. And then you got Waterford just kind of hanging down there in the 3. They played the toughest schedule so far. Coach Close knows how to win in March, just a little bit. February and March. He's won 3 state titles, and they've got some experience back. And the Wildcats are not a team you want to see on your side of the bracket.
No, you don't. And look, Fed Hawk's a team, again, what I was talking about earlier, they're going to be so difficult to handle in early rounds because of their ability to score the ball.
Yep.
So like if they can go and play well, they can put a lot of pressure on teams trying to pull the upset to try to have to score some points. Now, what happens is they get into some of the better teams and teams that can slow them down and guard. Now that's where it flips over. Can you guard? Your offense is only going to take you to so if you're one of these high seeds, your offense will get you so far, and then you better be able to lock in and guard somebody. And obviously the schedule they've played, that's the end I think it's going to help them on the most, is their ability to guard.
Yes, I agree with that completely. So Fed Hawk is the one you don't really want to see, but there are some teams that have played some really good schedules that will get them ready to possibly face that guard matchup, but will be a difficult task overall. So the Fed Hawk will play the winner of the 8-9, which will be Lynchburg Clay and Paint Valley. Paint Valley having their best year over the past 3 years. Lynchburg's still really young as well. So that'll be an interesting first round matchup. Valley and Eastern Pike will play. Winner will get South Webster, which would be the 3rd time South Webster and Valley will have played. Both those teams would be, I'm sure if you say, hey, December 28th, get a chance at a district title, you're going to play Fed Hawk. They're like, well, all right, let's go play, because they've played some really good schedules as well. But that Fed Hawk team, I do think, is the heavy favorite as it is. And the other district, Colgrove gets the 2 seed. They'll play the winner of Belpre and Peebles. Remember, Belpre still has, Gracie Bill's a really good player overall. And then Waterford will face the winner of Fairfield and Ripley. Ripley with a 1,000-point scorer. Fairfield also plays a really tough league as well. Fairfield will be the home team of that.
Starting to play a little bit better too. Some of their recent games here, they've played some pretty good teams. Tough. Belpre has the one player you're mentioning. They have a second player, their young point guard too. Well, maybe not so young anymore. Her name escapes me right now. I want to say Ray, but that's the girl at.
It's Way.
Julia Way. Yes, yeah. Thank you. Belpre at 5-15, they play in a pretty good conference there. That's you see obviously at 5-15 they're all the way up in the 7th seed. That kind of gives you an idea of some of the teams they play against. You look at the opponent win percentage, you can see they play as good a schedule as anybody. Interesting matchups. This is so fun to take a look at these things and try to envision the matchups. And as fans, we get in a big hurry and we start moving out. As coaches, you don't dare do that. You get locked in one game at a time and make sure that you're prepared for that first opponent.
Now, one thing that I'll say for Belpre is Way missed pretty much the first half of the season. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So, I forgot all about that.
And then Bills is averaging 16.7 points, 10 rebounds a game, 3 steals, 3 assists, over a block a game. That's not somebody you want to see.
I mean, they're going to play at home, correct?
Yes.
And then so once they get to that next round, they're I would label them as a dangerous opponent.
Yeah, and they reached the regionals last year. I mean, they're a team that you probably don't want to see if you're Cold Grove in that possible 2-7 matchup. So let's jump to our last division, Division 7. Let me pull this up really quick. Right now, Eastern. I don't know why I said right now. Eastern gets the 1 seed. Why would I say right now?
I don't know.
This is to my credit. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes into this episode. We did almost 2 hours earlier. This is me talking. Like, usually I'm like, okay at this point of.
Yeah. Well,
overtime.
Yesterday was a really long day. You were so bored you wanted to drive back and forth to Jackson and Chillicothe twice.
I almost left during halftime of the Wheelersburg Chillicothe game to go drive somewhere else. So, yeah, I agree. I'm an idiot. So, but Eastern gets the 1 seed. They are 13-5, or were 13-5 at the tournament draw. They were going to be the 1 seed. They played a really tough non-conference, and because of that, they get the boost over Franklin Furnace Green, who has played a much improved non-conference. Well,
if you go back and look at the Waterford and Belpre numbers, I think that probably helps Eastern there. And then you look, that's a really close final on that 1 and 2 seed, which shouldn't play a huge role, but nonetheless, it is the 1 and the 2.
Yeah, I think ultimately the difference was the opponent's win percentage.
Yeah, no
that's
doubt
like a small amount.
Yeah.
But when it's that tight, I do think that's the one that makes the difference in that. But just the 1 seed is going to be Eastern, playing a really good conference. They're going to be tested night in, night out. They will get the winner of White Oak and Southern. What a trip. That's a trip. From Southern to White Oak. Man, that is. Now, I guess the good thing if you're Southern is, White Oak has been decimated by some players having to sit.
I think that's a deceiving number based on. I watched White Oak twice early in the year, and then I watched them the other night, and then I followed your updates there. I mean, you tell me. That's 2 different basketball teams.
Yeah, they've lost 9 of their last 11 games, but they absolutely decimated New Boston on Saturday. So maybe they figured out something. But yeah, it's not been the prettiest as of late as well. So, but maybe they figured something out. I think if you are Southern, you're okay taking that very long bus trip. I'm typing that in, right? This was probably the must. It's only 125 miles.
What was the other one you were looking at? Warren Hillsborough? Was that the one you looked at earlier? Is that longer? would think it would be.
If you are,
How do you get from Southern? Well, I was going to say you got a couple different options there now. There's some different options there out of Racino. You could probably get up to certain points quicker than I think.
they both are about the same.
Okay.
It's about 120 miles for both of them. But yeah, just if you're new to overtime, you may not even know this. Half of the tournament shows are me and Dewey last year just looking up directions. I'm like, oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
It's just maybe they're longer trips than you thought, or I mean, you do gotta add in the bus part.
Yeah.
The bus is another 15 to 20 minutes on those long trips.
Question.
So yeah, so Southern, a 7:00 game on a school night to White Oak. That is it's a heck of a haul. But let's move down a little bit. South Gaia gets the 4. They will play East, probably. Trimble and Manchester will match up. Manchester did beat White Oak recently, so they got a little bit of momentum going in the tournament. That's more than likely going to be South Gaia and Trimble matching up. I believe they may have played earlier this year. They played in something. Played in football. That's what it was. They're actually here supposed to play this week. We'll see if that happens. It'll be the third game in 3 out of 4 days. South Gaia. That'll be the third game in 4 days. South Gaia is playing.
Got to get them in.
Yeah, and I will tell you what. I mean, the Trimble might be the only one they lose. So I mean, it's for South Gaia, it'd be a nice way to get them going. I saw one of their, they've had a really nice program over the last few years. So for South Gaia, so would be a nice matchup with them and Trimble, who's had a nice program for a long time as well. So the winner of South Gaia and most likely Trimble would get Eastern at Valley High School in a district championship game on the 28th. I think that's more than likely going to be, South Gaia Trimble. The winner of that will get Eastern as far as that goes. Now, Green will be the 2 seed. Now, for Green, they probably don't care one way or the other based off of where they're at. They've tried to go out and schedule. They've had a couple of games snowed out, so it's made it to where their schedule hasn't been as tough as they were hoping to make it. But you got a player that's committed to Marshall, Abby Knapp, outstanding. They're a well-coached team. They're very junior and lower heavy. This is a team that I think they are going to be the favorite to win another district title. They would most likely play Sims Valley, who Sims Valley always has some really good athletes. I mean, that's a very good softball program there. A lot of those kids play on the basketball team as well. They are 8-10, but right now they're sitting in first in the SOC 2. So they're a team that has played a really tough non-conference schedule, which has resulted in a lot of losses. But they're going to be a team that not really the most comfortable team to play in the second round.
I'm gonna put you on the spot again. So
Willowwood,
Green over the hump into the Final Four this year, or are they still a year away? Would Eastern and Green play each other in the regional? Do we know that?
I believe so. Let me look really quick. I think
that was something that in my notes this week I started thinking about in terms of Green, because you had her.
We have a guaranteed spot in the regional final.
So that even makes it even more so. Okay,
yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, because they're hungry, but Eastern's got to be looking or looking at this, say, well, hold on, what about us? You know what I mean?
Right.
So maybe the better question is Southeast District team. When I say that in the Final Four, I'm really only talking one game because one of them's making the Elite Eight,
right?
Correct. So yeah, that's interesting. I'm telling you, we've got some opportunities here in the postseason to follow some pretty exciting runs.
Hey, if you want to complain about the Southeast District, and I do it all the time. At 3:30, their tournament brackets were up. East District, it is 5:24. They are not up. Shout out Southeast District, not the last one to the party. Let's go.
There you go.
Yeah, so.
Can I mark that down? John Bruce.
It was kind of a backhand.
Applauding,
It was
applauding the Southeastern.
kind of a backhanded
okay.
one. So I like so many members that are on the board too. Like that's one of the cool things about doing this is you get to meet a lot of them. But I'm like, man, we still do a lot of things that are really old school. Let's flip some things. But it's okay.
Listen, I'm excited to see where these new divisions can go, and I think we do have some more open-minded leadership now that we're starting to make some of those moves, and
let's just let teams pick their road. That's all I want. It's literally all I want. Because we do the RPI, whatever, that's the same as the rest of the state. I just want, if Piketon decides they want to play Portsmouth in the first round, they should be allowed to do that. They're not going to. But, like, the Piketon Eastern Brown Alexander district pod that's going to be really good should be able to have 3 through 8 in it. If that's where those schools want to go, I think they should be allowed to do it. I think that's, if we're not going the complete NCAA route, which we aren't, I think it should be like it is the rest of the state. That's the thing with it. Since the rest of the state does it, I feel like we should do it. That's, to me, that's the biggest thing. Like if you are, let's just jump back up to Southern. If you're like Southern, you're like, man, I don't want to go to White Oak. Can we go play Trimble? Yeah, it's, you probably don't want to play, like, you would rather play the 8 seed than the 5 seed, but you should be allowed to pick where you go, in my opinion. But, so other than that, I think they do a really good job. They're finding, like, we've got a bunch of games at the Convo. We've got a bunch of games at really good high school sites. So I do want to make sure
good tournament sides.
Yeah. And if you are a long-time watcher of this, you probably are calling me a coward right now for saying that. But just saying, like, it's the change is working its way through. So Sims Valley could be an interesting matchup for Green, and that I do think Green is probably the heavy favorite. But that is the Sims Valley team that has played a tough schedule, as we have said. Well, maybe not. Maybe we won't go back to the opening game of the season between those two.
Did you answer the question?
I answered.
Are we going to have a team in the Final Four?
Yeah. Yeah. That's just, yeah.
I mean, listen, you're down to one game. Why not?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out who, like.
And again, they could run into an unbelievable opponent in the Elite Eight that we're unaware of at this point. But the point is what I love about the new divisions is we've spread the enrollments out. It's on a far better situation now. Competitive balance is continuing to work its way through. If you're going to have a lot of movement, there's more and more teams being punished the second half of the year, keeping some competitive balance in the tournament. So there's just a lot of things moving in the right direction. The computer system is a step in the right direction. If you didn't listen to us a couple weeks ago, I'm not a big fan of the percentage still.
Yeah.
But it's a step in the right direction. It's just hopefully we'll continue to iron it out and get better and better. Now,
Strasburg, Franklin, Caldwell are both really good, but you just got to beat one of them.
Yeah. We'll see.
I'll take the Marshall commit, but yeah, it'll be really interesting there. And then we don't want to leave out the bottom half of that bracket. Portsmouth Clay, having their best season in years, is going to be the 3 seed.
Yes.
And then they would have a possible rematch with Notre Dame, who they have blown out by like a combined 3 points, something like that in the 2 games. So that would be a really fun district semifinal matchup to get those two playing a third time.
No question about it. Really have enjoyed the Clay story. Enjoyed his interview and following his kids and the player development that they've had and the way they've just brought things along. That's been really fun to follow.
Yep. Now let's jump to. Oh, I agree completely. I want to make sure I don't want to just shrug that off because it's been a really impressive turnaround what they've been able to do over the last few years. So, especially with the small roster that they have. So let's jump to some of the games to watch this week. We do have one streaming game for girls on Wednesday. It'll be Huntington at Adena. We did a big breakdown of it before a couple weeks ago, and then we had snow happened and things happened. But it will be Wednesday. Me and you will have that call. Should be a fun matchup. Braley Hosworth is a really tough matchup for one.
Huntington's kind of started to find something here a little bit, playing a little bit better than maybe they were when this game was originally scheduled. For Adena, it's unique because they lose in overtime to Southeastern there, but like I feel like the Adena team has maximized so much out of their team throughout the year. Here they are to the finish line. It'll be interesting to see if they can finish strong and protect the home court.
Yes, and then you've got, it'll just be a really fun one because Marley Halcomb outstanding. Mallow has been really good for him as well. So I look forward to calling that game. Should be fun. Let's jump to some of the other games as well. Monday, you got Hillsborough at Uniota. Uniota's Jeff Miller has a chance to break my co-host in the Coach's Call-In show's record for most career wins at Uniota. Then you've got Adena at Amanda Clear Creek Monday. Amanda's playing really well as of now. It seems like they're finally healthy. That one's going to be a tough matchup for them. And then Waterford at Fed Hawk on Monday.
Oh, wow.
It's a short schedule. We said it on the boys' side also. We may be missing some games, but it just might not be. We may not have seen them as
the reschedules. And
the
stuff.
reschedules.
It's hard to be telling.
Yeah, teams are trying to get their games in, especially this is the last week of the regular season for the girls. So teams are trying to fill those slots. Without really looking, Cincinnati Country Day at Fayetteville on Tuesday, I would think would be a pretty interesting matchup there. Fayetteville does a good job of challenging themselves in the non-league. Moving down, Goshen at Fayetteville on Thursday.
Well, this time of year, I don't think that's by accident that schedule looks that way.
Yeah. Union at Piketon. That'll be for the SBC Championship on Wednesday.
Yep.
That's Union won sizably the first time, but this is the Piketon team that's playing really well right now, and they're going to have a chance to win a league title late in the season. So that's all you can ask for Piketon.
Yeah, and they've done what they needed to do in terms of holding serve against everybody else. Now you put yourself in a position to compete, and everything is a opportunity, right? So you get this opportunity. If you pull off the upset, great. If not, you move forward and you're looking at next year's league, but you're also looking at this upcoming tournament trail. And with the bracket you're in, you're going to face some really good teams. You're not going to face Uniota.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those teams that you can really test yourself here, coming off of some great performances against some really good teams here of late.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And then also Thursday, Seth Guy at Trimble. We mentioned that as a possible district semifinal matchup as well. So keep an eye out on that one to see some future plans possibly down the road.
It's also interesting to see these teams play this close to tournament, knowing they have that type of matchup maybe lingering later.
Yep. And then there's definitely some SOC 3 games that I haven't seen on the rescheduling yet. I know West plays Wheelersburg and Waverly. I believe those are both this week. I haven't seen the exact dates on those. Saturday. Oh, decent one Saturday. Portsmouth at Fairland. There you go. There's your Saturday night plans. Watch the Dragon Sports Network on that one. Saturday night, 8 o'clock, Portsmouth at Fairland. The first one came down to the last minute. Bailey Russell 3 with just, I think it was 58 seconds left, gave the Dragons a 3-point lead. It was a tie game. And then Addison Cornell gets a run-out layup to put that game away at the end. Just was an outstanding game down there. I can't imagine this would not be similar. Once again, that could be a preview of a state semifinal or possibly state championship game matchup as well.
Yeah, no, quite. I mean that's you're
Now,
exactly right there.
The state has done it before. I can only remember it once, where they make it to where the regions don't face each other to get a league matchup in the state championship game. The state championship game I'm talking about, if you were there, you will never forget it. It was St. Xavier and Moeller, both coming out of the Greater Catholic League. This is, mid or late 2000s. The St. Xavier in the semifinals beat 2 future NBA players from Canton Glen Oak, which was Costa Kufos when he looked like he was 40 at that time because of his hairline. And then CJ McCollum was like this tall at the time as a freshman. And now those guys are like CJ McCollum like runs the players union.
Yeah.
So like that's how good that St. Xavier team was, and they lose the game to Muller. But it was the best crowds I've ever seen. Like it was the best trash talking of any student sections I've ever seen, and it was such a fun atmosphere. And it's one of the most memorable games I have from the shot. So,
oh, absolutely.
I mean, so hey, OHSA, just toss that out there. I don't know if they've determined who's going to play in the regionals yet or the state semifinals yet. So give them that chance. You know, they played in the state semis last year. Haven't played in the finals if they can get there. So yeah, we've got some. Did you find some stuff?
Well, I was just looking through some stuff. Waverly, as on an earlier post when all these cancellations were happening, Waverly and Memphis said to be scheduled
Monday.
for February 9th.
Yeah.
So that was on there, but then, nothing else really. So it's you just gotta kind of do your homework, especially on your favorite teams. Make sure you're not missing anything, and then we'll try to help announce things as they come up too.
Yeah, and then remember that's a SOC3 that is super wide open. I don't know if it's as wide open as it was, but at one time it looked like everybody could finish between 4 and 6 and 6 and 4 with like 5 teams had a chance to go 5 and 5. So yeah, it's a very wide open league. Wheelersburg and Waverly both have a chance to win it outright, but they also could both tie. Valley sitting there at 5 and 5. Like, are we going to tie for second? Are we going to finish third? So Valley's the only one that just has to sit back and wait because everyone else, they're the only ones that are done.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out on that. You got anything else?
I think that's Friday night. I think when the Huntington Zane Trace boys rescheduled, the girls rescheduled with them. So that'll go all the way to the end there.
Piketon Paint Valley play Thursday also.
They've got to get one in. So yeah, there's a lot of different things going on. There'll be a lot of scramble to scout in person. You'll try to get films. I'm sure coaches will try to get out now that they know exactly who they're playing and try to see teams. But I'm anxious. We have an incredible finish to the regular season here on SOSA. And then I'm excited to start sitting down and hearing your thoughts on what our tournament trail should look like.
Yeah, we've got 4 regular season games left that are scheduled as of now for SOSA on streaming. Tuesday, Eastern Brown at Waverly Boys. Wednesday, Huntington at Adena Girls. That'll be our last SVC Kingston National Bank SVC game of the week as of now. I mean, we might just throw a tournament game on there if we get the right SVC matchup. And we've maybe been talking about one of them. Then Friday we got Chesapeake at Portsmouth boys, and then next Tuesday, Fairfield Union at Circleville in a rematch over there, likely for the MSL title. Also, that same night you've got Ironton at Chesapeake. Decent game over there in the OVC. So keep an eye out. There should be a lot of really good games around the area throughout this week. Keep an eye out on socials, on different places to see who's playing where, when. I think, let me see. I had this pulled up.
So girls tournament on the early dates then. They'll start next week?
Yeah, I believe next Monday. I think the 16th is the first girls games on the tournament, and then 17th we'll have some boys regular season. Carson actually put it on this thing. So the 19th will be district quarterfinals for Division 3 and Division 4 on the girls side. Division 5 district semifinals at Waverly will start on the 21st, and then the 25th we'll have Division 4 district semifinals at Logan. We did that last year. No, we did Division 3 last year. Division 3 district semifinals for the Convo will be on Friday the 27th. So I would guess that's where we'll pick up the boys starting then. The Convo will also be March 4th, March 5th, March 7th, March 8th, March 11th, March 12th, March 13th, March 15th. We'll see. We'll be there. I just don't know if we're streaming all of them. So hopefully we'll be there streaming as many as possible. We'll kind of see, because it kind of comes down to some different factors. Last year we were fortunate and we were able to get down there for almost every one of them. And then, sometimes things change. Sometimes things are out of our control, but we want to be there as much as possible. So keep an eye out on that.
Yeah, no question. It's an exciting time of year, and I'm I know there's a couple regular season things to finish up here, but anxious to get going on tournament.
Yep, should be a really fun time. So keep an eye out on our streams. If you didn't watch the Coach's Call-In show on Sunday afternoon, based on the numbers, you didn't. Usually people will pick that up throughout the week. So keep an eye on that. I'll put something out. There'll be a list of the timestamps for that will be out probably during the Super Bowl. Sorry. I mean, no one's going to watch it during the Super Bowl, but if you want to watch it back after you watch this on Monday morning, go ahead and do so, because it was a good episode. Had a couple good guests in studio, then 7 quality coaches interviews online as well. So me and Matt were having fun. I accidentally called him your brother's name for the second straight week. Actually, I finished it last week. I didn't finish Combs this week. I was called, and he just rolled his eyes at me because it's like, So we'll see. So, it's been a fun episode.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. For our producer back there, Kenneth Hay, we're gonna probably say that every time now that he's always here. For my co-host Shayne Combs, I'm John Bruce. You've been watching SOSA Overtime, presented by Perfection One. Have a great rest of your week.